Welcome, everybody. We're here for the ESL Challenger League Season 47 in South America region, and you got yourselves myself, Laz, and here, Paladin, to walk you through one of the best of ones here going on today, and it's a gorgeous day here going on, Paladin.
I'm so glad to finally be back in ECL, man. It's been so long. We weren't here for the last season, but now we're back. We have a new region to add into the conversation in South America. So many EPL spots up for grabs, and today on Valentine's Day, we're going to get to dish out some more best of ones for you. We do have a bunch of qualifiers going on, so for today's matchup, we will be having AdalYamigos going up against Corinthians, and honestly, I think it's an exciting prospect just by thinking about how the Amigos are going up against their former organization. They've got a lot of different changes going on in their roster, and they're trying to become this mainstay South American team, especially in a region right now that has a lot of ups and downs, a lot of inconsistencies, and we're still trying to figure out who the best of the best really are.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. So I think we're going to pull up a little bit of the matchup here because, like you said, we have a pretty good matchup going on here today. So that's going to be the big stake here because there's a lot to kind of talk about both these teams, right? For the Amigos on the left-hand side, I mean, this is, I think, like you said, it's a team that has been together pretty much for a good amount of time. They've been through very different organizations. They've, had roster changes, things like that. But really the crux of the core is there, and there's a ton of experience that does sit on this roster, where I think on the other side, for the Corinthians, it's a little bit different, right? It's not quite the same. I think the firepower is a little bit different, but also the roster experience is going to be a little bit less experience, I would say, than the Amigos.
Yeah, on the Corinthian side, they should be happy that they're here in the first place. I mean, battling up against the best that South America has to offer on a regular basis, they basically will have full seasons now to stack up against this competition, gather experience. It's a very young roster, across their stars. So they've got a lot to learn. On the Amigo side of things, they've got a lot of kind of training to do right now, and they would love to be in that conversation of playoffs and try to make some deep runs here in ECL. Whereas Corinthians, they're still getting their feet wet at this level of competition, and this will be a great test for them.
No, it definitely is, and I would like to bring up the groups as well. I think that's going to be an interesting little bit of a point here that we can talk about because there already has been some matches played in some degree, but there's also been a couple forfeits that have happened too. So we see like 9Z they're sitting at 2-0, but unfortunately MIBR had to kind of give up a few of their games. So that's kind of getting that kickstart happening already there. But the Amigos as well. I mean they have had some matches against Solid where they were able to have some good wins. So that's always an interesting to see as well. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup just in terms of most recently what they've been able to do. They are sitting at that 2-0, where Corinthians obviously are sitting at that 0-0. So they're still going to get their official under the belt. And that kind of adds an extra layer of, stress for me, I would say, Paladin. Like, again, like you have your first official, there's always the jitters, there's always the nerves and things like that. But at the same
Mhm.
time, they might be able to pull through it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the format lends itself to potentially bring up some upsets in this conversation, but you got to think about the depth that this region has in terms of the teams. I mean, you look at the left side of that of your screen. There are so many good teams there, and on the right hand side as well, a couple of stragglers like teams like MIBR, teams like Fluke. So there's just so much kind of opponents that the Amigos have to go through, that a matchup like the Corinthians is kind of a must for them. They have to kind of get things in shape right out the gates, and if not, that's when you start to get in some deep holes that'll be tough to bounce back in the rest of the season. So good starts for both of these teams is absolutely paramount, and I hope that we can see both of them at the peak of their powers. Because if it's so, I don't think this Amigos team is kind of invincible. They definitely can bleed, and especially with how new this roster is, only being together for around 2 months. So for me, I think Corinthians have to strike while the iron's hot. I'll be interested to see if they have what it takes to keep up.
Yeah, and I think we did just get word as well that the vetoes are actually coming in right now, so we're going to be able to pull through to see what the maps are actually going to be. They're just on the bottom of your screen there. And as you can see, so this is a best of one, so we have to stress this. This is not a BO3. It's only one map, which adds even more to this, and it is going to be Anubis, which I don't know, Paladin. I feel like this is actually a huge pick right now for the Amigos. Like, this is a map where they have a 75 or a 70% win rate. My apologies. Where in comparison, it's 29 for the other side. This on paper, that's pretty terrifying.
The problem for the Corinthians is they don't really necessarily have a map to go towards. They were always going to be unfavorable in the veto, and the fact that they don't really have a home map beyond the likes of a Vertigo and maybe an Ancient due to the number of maps played, you're kind of swinging for the fences at that point, and you just kind of want to go to something a little bit weaker, frankly. But the problem is for the Amigos, they've played so many maps across so many of the maps that, so many maps across the pool that it's so difficult for the Corinthians to really target anything. And this is what the conversation that we have to start is. It's going to be an uphill battle from the veto into the server, into the individuals, into, across the board. It's going to be a tough situation for the Corinthians. And sure, I mean, if they can get a side selection here, maybe get started on that T side and start to get the ball rolling, who knows? We could continue to have a completely different conversation within those first 5 rounds. But I'll be very curious to see what the Amigos have in store. They've played the 7 maps. It's the most played map in their pool as well. So you can't even knock the inconsistencies or not having played it conversation either. So I don't know, man. This first best of one is going to be very tough in my eyes.
Yeah, it is, and that's the thing you were kind of mentioning as well, is that, I mean, in terms of win percentages for the Corinthians, it is Vertigo that was kind of the big one. They only have 4 or 5 games under there, but it is a high win percentage. But when we could see those vetoes before, we saw that the veto came in right away. They're like, no, we're not even going to entertain this because they don't like playing this, right? So the Amigos definitely did their homework, and the fact that Ancient wasn't even a strong win percentage for the Corinthians as well. They have about 11 maps or 11 games under that map. It's definitely something they've done pretty good homework. And I think this veto went in their favor because, again, like you said, they played 7 times on Anubis. They have a very good win percentage on this and pretty dominant performances. So I think the Corinthians have a lot of work cut out for them in this BO1.
Yeah, I look at Amigos, and you have to talk about the new additions that they've had in this team. They added Pyria recently, who's been pretty strong on previous rosters. Teams like Oplano, teams like Furia Academy as well, where he got his notoriety. And then you've added a little bit more experience in SHZ, who has been around the block in a number of Brazilian teams for ages and ages now. And I think that might add a little bit more depth to this roster. I mean, I will always look towards the core of this team. Fasten will always provide me firepower, but I'm looking at the older players on this team. Players like Del Boni, players like ZQK, who have had their fair share of firepower issues, but have shown flashes of it here and there. And I'm very curious to see what kind of Amigos are we going to get today. Are we going to get the ZQK of old? Are we going to get the Del Boni of old where they can take over a game? Or are they going to kind of just hand it over to the young bloods of the team, like a Fasten, like a Pyria, and say, let's just let them run loose?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm going to ask you this question because I know we'll ask the chat this as well for predictions. But Paladin, I think we've voiced our opinions. But what's your prediction on this one?
Yeah, I think it's pretty safely in Amigos territory. I will say that the vetoes and the best of one format allows for a chance for Corinthians to have a say in this best of back to back best of ones. But overall, I just think pound for pound, Amigos just feel so much more of a tighter roster that I can rely on.
Yeah, definitely, and I agree with you. And we both think that the Amigos could take this. I'm not really sure what I would predict a score line, but I think it could be close. But at the same time, I think this is a favorable situation for this roster. And like you talked about, the amount of firepower from a variety of the members on this team. So we'll just have to see who's going to be able to pop off here today. But we are going to take that very short break as we get ready. So get ready, Valentine's. Grab whatever you need and buckle in. We'll be back for Anubis in just a little bit. All right, Valentine's, we're back. Short break, like I promised, but we're almost there. We're almost ready to get going here for the BO1, and it is going to be an exciting matchup. And I did want to just quickly touch base about this, Paladin, because I think we're going down a pretty interesting path with this. There's two things I wanted to say. I think we talked about, for the Amigos, their history as a roster and the players themselves being with some noticeable, organizations. Like I even saw that it was like the old school, like Luminosity, right? Like I think it was like the
Hmm.
2017 and stuff like that, and Oplano and Keed and things like that. But I think that's kind of the big thing that we noticed with this group. But is there any player for you on the Amigos and also the Corinthians that you want to look out for? If I could pick one from each play or one player from each team.
I want to look at Pyria on Amigos every single time. I think when we were having that Fury Academy, when the We Play Academy was still around, uh, when Fury Academy played, they came like last place I think almost every other season, but they had so many individuals that were so interesting to watch. I'm sure for you, most of you out there, the most noticeable one is Drop and maybe even Insani, or sorry, not Insani. Insani was on MIBR Academy, but
Mm-hmm. That's
um,
okay.
the whole conversation about Drop was he was the talk of the town. He was going to be the one that was upgraded, and he was. But the real standout player for me was Pyria, and the amount of firepower that he was able to bring. And he's been on a number of different Brazilian rosters. I just think he's been misused time and time again. He'll get you firepower, but they're not really necessarily getting wins. Like that Arctic roster wasn't getting too many wins, and neither was that Oplano roster as well. And now you're on a team where you have a core that is getting consistent wins, at least in the domestic level, and you add in a little bit more experience of SHC. That to me feels like you have a little bit more of a base for Period to work off of, and he's putting in work. At least in the last 2 months, he's got a 1.18 rating, which is nothing to scoff at by any means as a rifler. So I'm very curious to see what he's going to showcase within this season because there are a lot of games to play, and there's a lot of time to showcase your consistency at this level of the game and really start to turn heads for the rest of the top teams within the region and showcase like, look, I deserve the call up, or I deserve to at least be treated with some respect in the server.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm assuming you knew this too, but I think the one interesting thing, when we did our research about both these teams is that, for the Corinthians, none of the players are a 1.0 rating or above. So everybody's actually underneath that. Whereas on the other side for Migos, these guys are sitting at, I think the lowest was ZQ KS, right? And he was sitting at a 1.0, like dead even, but everybody
Mhm.
else is sitting at 1.11, 1.09. So like I kind of said in the very beginning, like the firepower does seem to be very strong on this, and not even just firepower in terms of ADR and things like that, but even just impact and what they can bring to the server. So that's where I think, our prediction was kind of coming through and saying like on paper, statistically, this is a heavy favorite, I think, in this situation. But Corinthians definitely have everything they can to be the underdog story. And I think we haven't really touched much on it either yet, is the fact that this is a best of one. And I know the community definitely has their own opinions about BO1s versus BO3s and things like that. But I think a BO1, we can agree, does add that spice because there's so much that you just don't know what could happen.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And the problem with the Corinthians, right, is they haven't even been getting HLTV official actual match pages. That's how far back they're playing in these South American domestic matchups. They're barely playing within the big SA tournaments. They're struggling through the open qualifiers themselves. And to actually get to this point is a big deal for them. They had to go, I believe, through the open qualifier to get to ECL in South America. So they've had to get into the grindstone side of things as a squad. And it's really difficult for a roster like this to come up against a more experienced roster like the Amigos. And so it's tough to kind of point out, oh, this is definitely the individual to look at because the sample size is so low when you view it on HLTV, and it's tough to really find out the statistics beyond that, or maybe like a Faceit or an ESCA. So we're kind of all in the dark here if you're not domestically a part of the South American scene. And it's going to be very interesting to see what level Corinthians can show because they had the Amigos core on their payroll for a little while, and
Mm-hmm.
they qualified for the EPL conference, I believe, and then they dropped their roster. So they've been going through so many different changes, and now they have to prove, especially the organization has to prove that we made the right decision to cut those players and bring this new roster on board. So I'm very curious to see what it's all about. It's a younger roster for sure, but they've got a lot of work cut out for them.
Yeah, they definitely do. And that's the thing too, is that we talked a lot bit about the groups and kind of like all the teams that are in this, division in the season, right? Like we talk about like Imperial, we talk about, teams like MIBR, Red Canids, Pain, the list goes on. So there's so many talented teams that are in this region. So that's what also makes this, the most exciting piece about the season as well. But we are just going to go back to another quick break. We do appreciate the patience. It looks like we're having just a bit of a technical issue with the server, so we're just going to get things a little bit organized for you, so then we can go right into game. We'll see you in a little bit. It's Laz and Paladin here to bring you this action on Valentine's Day. No other day than this one, Paladin. And it's good to be here with you.
I'm in love with CS2. See if we'll get a good matchup as well. Straight into things. Amigos Delboni trying to respond to this early mid aggression, but they're going to drop it at Canals. Straight into SAG. Furia up the bat, and he's got himself 2. Make it 3. That youngster that I was trying to tell us to look out for is on the scoreboard and taking names. It's all Leggy to try to defend. Actually, not just Leggy. I think there's still a CT, another T that's been in cuts, but don't mind the HUD here for a quick second. We'll get that sorted out. But still into the 2v3.
Yeah, still 2-on-3, but again, the bomb is in control right now for Corinthians. So this is not a bad position. They can kind of reset things out. Still 50 seconds on the clock. And now just having Fasten coming close here into this A site, getting in better position, going to go towards Heaven. So should be able to have a good positioning. Does have the dualies out, though. Not going to be the easiest spot to be. It does get noticed right away. No utility to stop these players as well. This is all about firefights now, and we're going to see this bomb should be able to get down. I don't know. The dualies not really making good connection. Finally does. And that one's mopped up pretty quickly, Paladin.
Yeah, there's EQK. Fasten does well to stay alive. If he goes down, that's where that retake conversation starts to come into play. But the Amigos get the job done. They have to give away a plant even after Pirius heroics in E-Box, but it should be fine. They'll have their full purchase out here, keeping 4 men alive. And the Corinthians, they'll have to reinvest with that bomb plant. So you'll have a Galil on Leo and Leggy as well. I'm assuming Cuts will also have one on the back of his shoulders as well. But light utility in this round. It's going to be something a little bit more pacier that they're going to need to activate in here in this round. And the Amigos will have to have their wits about them. They've properly invested with all these rifles to try to target Delboni yet again with this mid setup. Instead of dropping into Canals, though, they're going to keep going at him. Look at all of this mid control that Desh has. They're going to go straight into this A-bomb thing right off the rip.
Yeah, they're going to go right to camera. Delboni, though, not able to find himself that double. Maybe the triple, but it's going to be a nice cleanup here. And a convincing round. All 5 alive coming in right now. Nice job here coming in from the Amigos. And yeah, I love that map control. Like you said, I think Corinthians had a good idea. They wanted to just kind of go right down the middle, try to do something a little bit different, but just wasn't enough. And a nice reaction coming in from the Amigos to kind of shut down that aggression right away.
Yeah, I like the idea there from the Corinthians that they want to basically condition Delboni in middle to give away that map control and try to control it, but with that A4, just did such a great job in spraying down players in camera, having the proper rotations in play as well. And with that, the force spike gets eradicated. Corinthians are right back down to default pistols. ABR got a little bit to play with on the Deagle department, but Fasten should be able to hold things down no problem. Talk about strong players to look out for. I was mentioning Piria, already 5-1 in the first 2 rounds, but there's Desh. What a mind-blowing Deagle headshot there from him. Should be still tough to deal with. They've recovered the A1S, but I don't know if they can really do much with no armor.
Yeah, that aim punch is going to be awful. But, I mean, if they're just going to be hitting Deagle shots like that, I think it's not even going to matter at this point right now. Desh now sitting with 2 frags with the Deagle alone. And the bomb, it's just coming in the back skirts here of mid. Still plenty of time. Under that minute still remaining. They don't really have any utility. They have no utility. What am I talking about? They do have a Zeus, though, so that's always fun. But either way, I mean, the utility is still quite available right now. SHZ is holding on a full pocket of it. So they're going to have to be really careful what they want to do. And right now he's sitting in E-Box, but instead Corinthians are going to push up through mid. Go right back to what they did last round. They want to see what they can find. And right now they're going to have to worry about ZQK. We'll see what he'll be able to find. He does have the FAMAS. Not the best gun to have here, Paladin. I know you and I both have our opinions of this. And Deagle. And there it is. A Deagle again. Desh is able to find 3. I can't believe it. Furia now coming in from the top lines, needing to find more duels. The time is running out with 10 seconds. Needs to go for this swing. And there it is. It's done and dusted quickly.
Corinthians to get a bomb plant. Desh had some serious heroics with the Deagle. And it's gonna cause some economic damage for the Amigos. There'll be 3 repurchases necessary. But yeah, I mean, I do like the Corinthians again making a headway into the middle, knowing that Delboni was down and they want to continue to target that part of the map. I like it. Keep abusing that side of the map. Eventually, something is going to have to work though. If they can't actually get rounds on the board, Amigos will not change the setup, and there will be no conditioning that'll come from the half. So something's got to break for Corinthians before these mid plays finally net them some sort of reward in terms of the rotation.
Well, we do have the off though. And Delboni again able to start things off, and he's been doing such a great job just finding these opening duels on the CT side, and that's kind of the name of the game about Anubis, right? I mean, on the CT side, you want to be able to find these first engagements, but a nice shot coming in from Evox, from Leggy, so that's a good start. A little bit of a reply back here for the Corinthians, but still the man advantage, and Leggy again makes me eat my own words, bringing it for another double kill to bring it to a 3-3 just like that.
I'm confused. That might have been through the boards, but I have no idea how Delboni goes down. This 3v3 is a lot more favorable for Corinthians than I initially thought. And now, Puria's going to go on his own hunting mission into the canals, and I think he's been spotted by ABR. Now, mission to get out of this situation. I don't know how he does. Molly at his feet and a smoke as well, but he just gets banged up through the pillars. A lot now on the shoulders of the vet. ZQK, 35 seconds left on the clock, and it looks like they may be ending a split 1-1 on the site. So a lot of pressure here on ZQK.
Yeah, and they have that utility too, right? So even Desh does have the flashes. You can see on the top here, just on carpet, going to be able to throw this. They're making a lot of noise, but he has to hit the shot. Oh, it's a swing and a miss. Looking for more, but able to finally make that connection. The flashes now starting to fly in, but he's still aggressing on this. He doesn't even care at all. And there it is, almost finding that 3, bringing it to the 1v1. The plant should come in time, but now SHZ, what does he have ahead of him? A flash and an HE, no kit. Does have the M4, and both these players about to run into each other. Easy kill! Oh man, I almost ate my own words again, but okay. Amigos, they'll pick up 4, but man, it's getting scrappy.
Oh, I really thought it would have been heroics again for Desh to pull out the 1v2. But ZQK, I mean, that's the kind of impact we're looking for your Opper. He's very old in that sense, and he's been around the block for a long time. A lot of cause for concern. People kind of talking about whether or not it's his time to kind of hang up the mouse. And he's been playing on this Amigos core for so long, and this proves, at least that round there, that he still got it in him. Huge double kill to keep that round alive for the Amigos. Bounce back from that 5v3 man advantage that they lost. But bomb plants back and forth, or sorry, round after round for the Corinthians allows them to have a reinvestment. Desh will have that AWP out as well. So Corinthians will have a couple more opportunities to continue to knock on that CT economy door, because you look at the funds across the board for the Amigos, it's not the prettiest. Fasten, Delboni, SHZ, Puria, all under that 2K mark. And with single loss bonus, should they lose a round here, they'll be straight into that eco, and Corinthians will have a say right back into the half.
Yeah, and I think the fact that we're seeing the Amigos are kind of sitting in a good position with a 4-0 starting things off on the CT. I mean, I feel like we've seen, I feel like a better transition on the CT side now. I mean, I think it's still a T-sided map, but I think we're starting to see teams are, figuring out a better system on the CT side just to, get some control and just not letting the T's run over this. So I think for a 4-0 right now, this is a great start. Corinthians, I think they're going to have to use this time right now to figure out what they need to do a little bit differently. We have seen them try, the mid control, but it looks a bit clustered and looks uncomfortable. But we've also seen them try to get into this A site. They have been able to get the bomb down at least, so that's been allowing that cash to be flowing. But we'll have to see something a little bit different. And we do have the ops still out, right? So ZQK still has the op as well as Desh. So I'm going to be interested to see what Desh can do with it. Well, so far all he saw was the Deagle.
Yeah, and he had a near opportunity with the 1v2 as well, but unfortunately couldn't get the job done in both accounts. We do have a slight little tech pause here, folks. We're just trying to get that sorted out, as the Corinthians may have a bit of a tech problem, but as soon as we get it sorted, we'll be right back in a game, and curious to see if Amigos can convert off the back of this 4-0. As you say, them taking that sort of a lead this early on a map like Anubis is always going to be fantastic. You know, making do with just this amount of CT rounds should still be enough for a comeback if they aren't able to actually break through. But I mean, at this point, it's all about building that momentum, trying to get these 5-6 rounds while the iron is hot, holding on to that kind of advantage. But yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like right now, even though Corinthians have some good ideas in terms of the macro, Amigos are just punishing via these individuals.
No, definitely. And I mean, that's the thing that we were kind of talking about in the pre-show as well, as I think for Corinthians as well, like their history on this is, not been too great in the sense that they're sitting at a 2-5, sitting at a 28% win percentage. But I mean, we also got to take the effect too that they've had some close games. I mean, even their loss, against Solid was a 13-9 loss. They have been able to beat a team like, W7M. And, they even had like way back, I guess I think it was Wendigo that they had that 16-14 overtime. So it definitely is kind of all over the place. But like I said, if we kind of flip it over, it's the exact opposite of the scoreline where it's a 5-2 that sits here for the Amigos. And they've had some pretty dominant wins like 13-3s, 13-5s. The list goes on.
Yeah, it definitely is. Seems to be the case. Well, hey, we're going to try to sort out this tech pause real quick. And we're going to cut to a short break. When we come back, it's right back into this best of one between Amigos and Corinthians on Anubis. We'll see you in a little bit.
Well, Valentine's, we made it quick, and now we're here for the 4-0 still on the best of one. We'll see if Corinthians have been able to have this time figure out what they need to do to bring things on the goose egg to be removed. I don't know about you, Paladin, but so far it's been a pretty good game that we've had so far with only 5 rounds in.
Yeah, competitive despite the scoreline, and it's straight into this A site, going right at Delboni, right at Pyria. And Delboni only goes 1 for 1, so it's only the youngster and the back of the bomb site. Desh actually sits back with the bomb before going in, taking down Fasten. And with that, we stay at a standstill. ZQK is caught between 2 mines. Still unsure if Desh is holding the line, but this 4v3 still favors the Corinthians. The bomb goes down, a little bit of an advantage into the camera. Watch for cuts here on the late lurk. And it's just a matter of timing here before cuts swing. And the Amigos members can take one down. But Pyria's there to trade. Cuts can only get one. And now ZQK on the AWP doesn't get anything. And with that, Pyria on his low HP is going to have to back away. And Corinthians get their first on the board. And we spoke about those early financial woes that could come to bite. And I think it's going to rear its ugly head moving into round number 6.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, that's the thing is even for Pyria right now, he's not going to be able to find the op either because that op could have been really important to bring through. But regardless, the M4 is good. Full armor with the kit. It's going to be a decent save regardless. So now we'll have to see. Just kidding. He's going to be a dead man. And Desh puts that op to sing a little bit more. So no save at all coming in from the CT side. But you know what? They don't care at all. They're going to spend every single dollar possible and they're going to deplete the bank account. But why the heck not? And, you know, I do like that last round, Paladin. I mean, it felt like Corinthians were kind of like, look, let's simplify this thing. Let's just go A. Let's not make this complicated. And they got around.
Yeah, and you got to give a little bit of credit to Desh to putting in work, cutting off that canals rotate almost instantaneously, and automatically using that AWP to great effect. This time around, it's actually going to be ZQK to get that opening 5v4. Instead of Delboni in middle, it's the Opera instead, and that does put a spanner in the work for Corinthian setup, and that doesn't make anything easier. SHZ takes down Leo, and another 5v3 on offer for the Amigos to convert. We saw them slip up a couple of times in the rounds previous, but if they can get through this cleanly, it would be to great benefit. Delboni can potentially upgrade as well. Now that he's only on a USP, and it would do wonders, but still a lot of work to do with the minute left on the clock.
Yeah, and this is where things kind of, you know, hit a bit of a halt, right? I mean, it is a 5-on-3, so we are still kind of working with the HUD right now, but Corinthians, they've been in this position a few too many times. I mean, they're down the numbers, still within, you know, time remaining, and now look at the CTs are just going to push out of A, and actually ABR does find that one, so it is a trade back and forth. Fury actually does get the trade, so this is good because now they can just pull on back, leaving it down to 2, but Kotz is in a tight position. He's just hugging on the wall here. CQK, I don't know if he's going to expect this. Oh, peekaboo, and there he is, but he's a dead man. So, leaving it down to Desh by himself with AWP, and now he's got some work cut out for him. A 1-on-2, he does have the bomb paladin. This is something he could do. He's going to bring up that AK. SHZ now posted up behind the pillar. And should be an easy lineup, and it's done. A 5th round is now gained here for the Amigos.
An unlikely round there for the Amigos as they purchased pretty much completely there from their funds. You had Delboni on a USP, but they still use that extra body to great effect. They swing out wide. Delboni allows for Pyria to get that trade onto ABR. And then following that, another trade on the A site from ZQK's death. It's just great, efficient plays from the Amigos, and Pyria is off to the races, 11-3 to kickstart the CT-sided campaign. And now it's the Corinthians' turn to bring in pots and pans into the following. Now Leo's hot under the collar. Fasten is going to continue to try to push the issue, but he pulls out a nade in that entire exchange and gets punished. They're going to try to continue to punish this B bomb site. ZQK hot under the collar as well. This shot has to fall back into sight. Pyria is here, the rotation is there, one for him, but only one is always going to get so much damage being done to the players on the site, and finally, the Molotovs start killing off players. Delboni goes down, Desh goes down to Delboni Molotov, but look at this flank from Leggy. He's run all the way up through mid, and
Oh,
found
no.
a way in. And Delboni doesn't clear his angles, cuts, plays that weight game really, really well. An unlikely round for the Corinthians, and you know, I don't even necessarily say it's anything that could be potentially replicable. It's just that pace completely catches the CTs off guard.
Yeah, it kind of feels like when Corinthians are kind of putting a little bit more pressure into these sites, it feels like it's working better for them, because we even saw they were just trying to do that split through B main and then also through E box. And we could see that, you know, they were able to get some duels. It was still going for the Amigos technically, right? I mean, they were kind of, you know, getting the trades immediately and things like that, but they at least were able to, you know, get some good duels moving and flowing a little bit better than before. But now we see the Amigos are going to be on that lighter pistol round, and they're just going to try to beat through B main. And Leo Munster now just getting a nice field day with some taps and just practicing the one taps. And oh, Delboni, nice dig again, leaving it just down to the 2-on-4. The man advantage still for the Corinthians, and these pistols have to find an opening. But look at the positioning. This is so hard because they're split apart from each other. Nobody's near. Okay, I was going to say maybe could get the timing, but nah, not even going to be in the deck of cards right now.
They keep trying to go for this Canals aggression, and Corinthians have pretty much caught it out every single time that they've had guns. Great awareness from Desh this time around. And it'll be another round for the Corinthians. Deagle's still up for Delboni, trying to get maybe an exit on the way out, but with 4 players left up here for the Corinthians, I don't necessarily know if there's anything on offer for him, and I'm liking what I'm seeing from Corinthians. It's when they simplify these rounds where they're able to start racking up a couple wins.
Yeah, no, I think that's honestly the best point, because it is really just simplifying. Let's just do something, you know, plain simple, and it's working. That's the thing. They're not overcomplicating their executes and taking these sites. They're just kind of doing some good splits and getting some good control. And the trades have been kind of, I think, more in favor for the Amigos, in my opinion, but at least they are still looking a little bit better to get into these sites. They're getting the bomb down, they're getting that extra plant money. So we can see the money is kind of flowing. It's not unreal, but it is definitely better than what it was. And we were talking at one point, what was it, like 5-1 at one point, or 5-0? So, I mean, the fact that they're able to bring some consecutive rounds in order, it's much needed, and it's getting a lot closer now, which is good.
That's exactly right, and they'll have a chance to build on this economy just a little bit more into this round, considering the full USB situation. Delboni will still have that saved over Deagle. They're going to boost him up top in the smoke. It's hard to get these rounds, or these shots off. He's gotten a couple out of the back of cuts, but doesn't actually net himself a kill. So they disassemble, and they'll move as this pack, trying to capitalize on some extremities players, but ABR has moved all the way back into spawn. They've planted the bomb on the B site, and the Amigos will not get anything from the Corinthians. It'll just be this flash out, streamline their way into ABR's crosshairs, but he's got himself lined up a couple on deck. He actually only gets one. They're going to continue to try to recover these guns, but Desh should have this line, as well as cuts from spawn. So this recovery mission has gone pretty topsy-turvy off the rip, and the Corinthians should be able to retain these 4 men and go up 5-4, or sorry, come back 4-5 scores.
Ooh, not gonna work, but yeah. And for folks that are kind of wondering too, I'm sure that question's come up a few times. Yes, so the HUD obviously is just, we're working on it, but I think, you know, just with the recent additions with ESL adding the coach function, it does kind of mix things up a little bit. So we're working on it. We're trying to work on it. But make sure if you're ever in doubt, check that top right corner for the players alive, of course, so we can have a bit more of an idea. But either way, a very impressive showing that we're seeing from Corinthians. That pause really is just come in full effect for these guys. They're able to bring back, like I said, pretty much 4 rounds in a row now, almost making this back to the tie game. Really slowing things down and simplifying them, I think, which has been kind of the name of the game. And you can see they just look a little bit better. They're not over peaking this. Like a couple rounds ago, we saw players just swinging this player, but they're not doing that now. So that's a good thing to see. They're looking a little bit more composed. Oh, and even, oh, look at that. That's the op drop too, Paladin. That's a huge kill.
That is so unfortunate for ZQK. It was just a matter of timing for Leo, and wasn't aware of that swing. Furia has now been quelled as well. Desh with another AWP shot. And sure, your B-Lurk has gone down in Leo, but with the 3v3 on the A site, the bomb has gone down. And the Amigos have nothing to do in this round. They're going to back out and essentially give away the lead, tie things up. And it's just another contact play into that A site. A war on two fronts for the Corinthians, and it works out wonders. The Amigos have no answer, and we'll tie ourselves at 5. So I really like what I'm seeing here from the Corinthians. Just trying to capitalize on just really passive play from the Amigos. And it's working wonders.
No, it really is, and I think that's, I was kind of saying before, like, it was, the Amigos sitting in a position where they can be, that 4-0 on the CT side. Well, okay, well, he gets that one shot at least. It's not bad, I guess. You'd rather save the gun, but at least you can get one. But the fact that the Amigos were sitting at a 4-0 at one point on the CT side, I was saying that's a really good start because, I mean, this is a T-sided map still, but now the Corinthians have been able to get their footing a little bit better. And we're starting to see that their positioning and even their control and pace is really just more the way they want to play, which is good. Now we're going to see pistols back on the board here for the Amigos. We do have a nice little shotty, and I think that's going to be towards the B site. That's funny.
It's not even the shoddy that you usually see. It's a Nova, I believe. And
yeah, like who? I don't think I ever see that. Like, no. Like, it's if you miss, it sucks. Like, you're having a bad time.
You are dead automatically, and he has no armor to back it up as well. So that aim punch might be killer. Should that first shot be a body shot to his head, to his body? So not necessarily a huge fan of the purchase, but in any situation, it's the A site where the shotgun is not actually nearby. And Furia, while he's been great in this game so far, cannot actually line up any headshots, and Corinthians will get themselves an entry once more into this A site and actually reclaim the lead here, Laz. This is quite the turnaround for the Corinthians in late stages. Off of just that one round to kickstart their T campaign, they've now just gone 4 more on the trot. Sorry, 5 more on the trot.
Yeah, exactly. So now it's just a bit of a cleanup, which is good here for the Corinthians. So they're going to be sitting themselves at 6 minimum. So we will go into that last round here for the first half. But like you said, this is very impressive to see how well they've been able to bring it back. And, it always kind of raises the question, when there's a big lead happening, if teams can, bring things back, or they can, get that composure. And we got to see it there. And they didn't lose control of it too quickly. So Nova's still going to be in the hand, maybe. Oh my goodness, he doesn't even get the kill. He brings Leggy down to 3. Oh, that's even worse. Well,
that is so gross, man. It's so unfortunate for him. Anyway, you love the extra cash. Maybe you could have dropped on a better rifle as well. Who knows? But I mean, it should be just fine for him. Like, his funds are just fine. Gets all the bells and whistles in terms of the utility. Gets his A1S out with vest. And Corinthians will have a chance to actually take the lead to open up Anubis, which would be fantastic. Wow, what a play there from Desh.
That's a huge shot, too, and that was looking pretty scary because Delboni was looking like he was going to come in with a full aggression, but Corinthians are able to just clean up the house right now. 4-on-2, leaving these two CTs split apart from each other. Pyria able to give his presence known now, so we can see Corinthians. They can just change the plan if they want to. But Pyria is going to maybe push through the smoke. Oh, wow, he's just going to disrespect this. He doesn't care at all. This is some good information, though. So now he's going to be able to creep through. He's not going to be able to see anybody, but his teammate is in E-box. Middle. Oh, my goodness. That timing is everything. SHZ now by themselves on the 1-on-3 Paladin. I do not like these odds.
I don't either, Laz. It feels as though that the Corinthians are on deck to get themselves their 3rd. Unless we'll have some absolute heroics by SHZ. Leo is trained on the angle. Got the jiggle and can actually abscond back to the rest of his members. They try to Molotov him off, but SHZ will keep fighting, but there's the double peek. Corinthians confirmed the half lead 6 rounds in a row on this T side. and we'll get to see if Amigos can bounce back on their offensive after this short break.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're here for the second half of the best of one, and we saw that the Corinthians came all the way back from a goose egg, taking the first half with 7-5, and now we're going to see what they're going to be able to do on that CT side.
An opportunity now for the Corinthians to build on this, but Leo, it's actually 4 players just running through A main, straight into the Amigos side, and it's kills all over the map. Luckily for Furia, he confirms a bomb plant, but a 1v5, that's going to be a real tall order. He can get himself the first, take out cuts, but Desh is there, and it's nearly a team ace there from the Corinthians. So what a just wild play to call, and it actually works out for them last.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, right? I mean, let's just break down that round. I mean, that was all 4 of them pushing through A main and just fighting for control right away. We talked about that in the first half. We said, look, the CT side, you need to fight for some real estate. You need to put some pressure on this, and they did it. It was really risky, but it panned out perfectly. I mean, the fact they were able to find multi-duels in canals in mid like that, just outstanding. So now they put them in a great position here with good inventory. They got the M4s with the MP9s locked in, but with the bomb going down, the Amigos are going to go right back. They're going to try to convert the second round. They want to squash this CT money. But man, if they can lose this, Paladin, this could really affect them, losing a consecutive amount of rounds here. But Dash can go for the swing by himself. It's 0 play, but it's an absolute blunder.
Yeah, the wide swing there really is a cause for concern. Luckily for the Corinthians, there are 2 players on this A bomb site to potentially defend. They're going to continue to send players up camera. ABR will be here to potentially deal with the Furia play, but they're into this A site. They still have another rotation here in cuts. Fortunately, Leo will get taken down. ABR is there for the trade. And so a 3v3 to ensue as the Amigos are going to try to hold on this A site in this man-even situation.
Oh man, but this is the thing. It is a 3-3, right? But again, don't believe there's any kits available here for the CT side. So this is going to be a tough situation right now for the Corinthians. But you can see the Amigos, they're just locked into this site. Hudson just hanging below this. Oh my goodness, that positioning. Oh, Baston's just kicking himself right now. He had no idea. That is so dirty. CQK right now, trigger discipline. This could be everything, and that's a beautiful double. And that could have single-handedly won this round. Time is ticking away, down to the 1v1. Needs to get moving. Well, that kit is not available, and that's going to be the Amigos somehow, in some way, to bring this down. And yeah, he's a dead man. That bomb takes him out.
Oh my goodness, EQK. Very cerebral play there from him. And it's a tough call to make, right? Like, you don't necessarily know how many players are coming from that direction, but he trusts his gut. 2 players show themselves, understand that there's no way that Cuts can swing that late in the round, and the Corinthians get their bell rung by an individually brilliant play from ZQK. A couple really impactful rounds here from the vet, and it's keeping the T's in it. A force buy back. They're going to continue these force buy wars. Corinthians back and forth.
Oh, slash.
Flashed into it. They want to fight Delboni head on. The trades are actually good for the CTs. But there's finally SHZ chiming in. And Fasten quickly reaches equilibrium and actually tips the scales into that of the T's. It's only Leo Monster, position noted, and only a P50 to his name. I think just maybe the Amigos have righted the ship and have found the way to get back into this game.
Yeah, and that's a really good attempt from the Corinthians too, because again, they had the MP9s with the flash there. Furia should be able to find this. He does. An easy cleanup, but either way, they tried to, you know, control the mid. They tried to put that pressure, and then even Leo Monster was trying to push through that B main with his teammate to go for the pistols to kind of do a nice little bit of a crunch, but it just fell apart a little bit with that pistol, not able to land that duel. But now we see the Amigos have been able to bring back 2 rounds in a row now, making it problematic here for the money situation for the Corinthians. And they did put some, you know, big investment in the previous, so this is going to be surely the lightest purchase if we see anything. But I mean, you already have 2 players that are sitting at below 2K. ABR might just try to do some utility just to work around something, but most likely we're going to see that stack again somewhere.
Exactly right. Now, Corinthians do have, I believe, another tech boss here that will be on that full save.
And we saw it before, right? I mean, this was the Amigos when they switched over on the other side, obviously, in the first half. But I mean, they stacked middle. They even tried to boost over the smoke. But I feel like a lot of teams have tried, you know, the mid stack, and I feel like it doesn't always really work anymore. I feel like a lot of teams are pretty aware that, like, you know, when a team's on an eco, they're just going to avoid mid at all costs, I feel like, these days. But I mean, this is a coin flip. They got to decide maybe a nice stack A or B. Simple as that.
Agreed. And now it really just comes down to the conditioning, right, for the Corinthians. Can they find a way to break through? Can they find a weak point to target and have that mid-round aggression work out a little bit better? But so far, the ideas are just, let's flash through a smoke and see what happens, instead of maybe something that's a little bit more reliable. And once it, I mean, sure, it might just be a question of they have pots and pans, they've got SMGs, they just want to ruffle some feathers. But once the guns do come out, I'm very curious to see if the game plan dramatically changes or if they want to continue that same level of aggression. Because if they do, I mean, Amigos have to be aware of it. They did it effectively in rounds previous, but it might get a little dicey when the Corinthians have got rifles in their hands.
No, for sure. And I mean, this is the thing, like where we saw in the first half. I mean, it was, the Amigos playing on the CT side. That was it's a 50.7 win percent. I mean, when we switch things over to the T side, I mean, we're talking over 18% more. So it's 68% that they have a better win rate on their T side, which is obviously a huge effect. And that's what we were kind of talking about with a map like Anubis. The T side is just so strong, especially if you can have the right utility and everything like that. But this team clearly can do it. Is in comparison for the other side here for the Corinthians, I mean, it's a 30.5% win rate on the CT, which, yikes, not good.
Yeah, not good at all. Just a couple more minutes on this small little delay here as we get things sorted out. There's a lot of games going around the South American scene right now with IEM Dallas Open qualifiers going on. Uh, Super important for a lot of these teams to get involved, especially considering, I mean, these SA qualifiers. There are not too many of them for some of these events, and I understand why everybody's trying to take advantage. And I mean, essentially, this is a tournament also of a qualifier, right? A chance to potentially play with the big dogs at ESL Pro League, and a chance to fly over to Malta, play internationally. I mean,
Yeah.
from either one of these teams, it would be an absolute dream to get themselves locked in for an S tier LAN and have that penciled into their calendar, try to start to build a name for themselves. But there's a long road to go, lads, especially considering how early on we are in the season. And it really gives so much importance to these games. Sure, it's just a couple best of ones, but they all add up over time, and you want to cement your spot in the playoffs and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, no, that's a really good comment, because again, like what we talked about in the pre-show is that these aren't BO3s anymore. I mean, we're talking BO1s, but every single match obviously is still going to have the most importance, in terms of the league and getting yourselves to advance to playoffs and et cetera, et cetera. So this is where every single map is going to be the utmost importance for these teams. But like you said, there's lots of Counter-Strike going on here. We're finally back in the new year, new game. We're moving along. It's pretty good.
Rightfully so. Well, tech pause lifted, tac pause completed as well by the Corinthians.
Back.
And right into tech
pause. Oh, I jinxed it. I jinxed it.
we jinxed it.
I was worried. I was like, oh, the timer's low. We're going good. We're going good. But either way, I mean, I think what we saw from the Corinthians, that we saw that really interesting pistol round where they got to be really aggressive. I do want to see kind of more adventurous plays here, especially if they're going to be on a full save. I mean, I think even a stack B with the the utility for ABR to purchase a couple flashes and they just swing B main could be an interesting way for them to find some rifles. I mean, this is the rounds where you have to be really experimenting, right? And I feel like you just got to try something a little bit unorthodox to find an opening, find a gap somewhere. So we'll find out. Hopefully in 13 seconds we will.
Hopefully, right? Hopefully.
Let's not jinx it again.
I think it'd be great to have those kinds of continued unorthodox plays, as you're saying. It doesn't seem to me that there's any utility purchased in this round. And it'll just be that complete ego across the board and a stack on this B bomb site. Unfortunately for the Corinthians, it's a default spread for the Amigos, and they'll eventually find that this A bomb site is clear and ripe for the taking. Bomb is leaning that side of the map as well, so tough situation, especially when the only recoverable weapon is ZQK's 5.7 that he's picked up, and SHZ is quite deep into this.
Oh, look at Leggy. He just ate that grenade, and now they're just running into a blender. Okay, yeah. Corinthians tried it. They tried to do the quick little bit element of surprise. Couple nice little consolation kills, but that's going to be, I believe, a Galil picked up, but it's not going to be long for this world, surely. And there it is, cleaned up, tie game. And like you said, I was really impressed with that too, because I think it was Pyria that was kind of creeping through A main, getting that information. Corinthians waited things out. I like they didn't just swing immediately in the beginning of the round. They actually tried to play that a lot more patient and wait things out. Tried to be that, that dry peak, but it just didn't fall through. But now, Paladin, we're here for the glory of the gun round.
Now's the time for me to see if Desh is made of sterner stuff. He had a lot of impact on that T-side AWP. Now he's got a little bit of a chance to dictate the pace, play with the rotation a little bit, try to get into Amigos' head, make them earn this map control. But the early Gambit does not net him any opening kills. And for that, the Amigos will be thanking their lucky stars. They'll have a chance to take quite a bit of map control. They'll get at least the entrance to Dark. The Boney's trained on middle. And Corinthians will have to force the use of utility because of some of this tossed early util from the Corinthians. From the Amigos. So a good push and pull back and forth, but it's heavily favoring the T's. Look at the lack of utility straight into the sight lines. But there's Desh's AWP to chime in. It's only going to get him one, though.
Yeah, it's a little bit interesting. I thought actually Desh, I thought, had a better position on that, but just seemed the timing was just a little bit off. Pyria might be able to find a double. Do they expect this? And it's a 1-1. Bringing it back to a 3-3. So now the T's are just going to try to run into this B site. Double CTs at the A site, so it's a long rotate. Leggy needing to stay alive here for his team. He's making tons of presence right now. Going to go for the default plant right behind the little wall. So now things get a little more interesting. Utility is lackluster here for the CTs. One flash remaining.
No kits.
With no kits either, so that's a really good point. Now Leggy making his way through. SHD still playing pizza. This is a tough position, but it's a cleanup. And there we go. The lead is now gained back here for the Amigos.
3v3 retakes on that B bomb side is not going to be easy, especially considering, as you said, lack of utility, lack of kits, and eventually lack of time considering the rotation that they had to pull in. But Pyria put in some major work on that A main lurk. He gets one kill, notates the second player trying to trade. And at that point, you say, okay, maybe we can just accelerate. We've got dark control. We've got the outside of B main as well. We might as well just extend to this site, force Leggy to make a play. Can't actually get anything done. So it's an eco for the Corinthians. Amigos are teed up to get themselves double digits. And that momentum that has been built up off the offensive half for the Corinthians has been quickly snuffed out. And when given a different scenario, Cuts had an opportunity there with Delboni being completely blind, but all of that has just been snuffed out. The Corinthians are now backs against the wall in this best of one.
Yeah, this is, I mean, that was a good attempt again, right? I mean, this is going through the mid. They're just trying to do something with the flashes and just being a little bit cheeky, but it's just not working out for them at all now. Last two players here from the CT side just sitting in A main, and you can see the Amigos, they're kind of hunting this a little bit, but they're trying to be a bit cautious because, again, like, you know, ZQK does only have $2,000. Furious sitting at 38. So, I mean, they do have funds, but it seems kind of careless if they go for it. So they are just going to keep pushing that pressure on there. Corinthians are just going to have to hold on these pistols. I mean, there is armor on Leggy, so it is something worth on saving for. But nice work coming in from the Amigos. Now they're going to be sitting themselves at 10 rounds. And Paladin, I'm liking that they've kind of, you know, used this timeouts to get themselves back into a better footing on their T side.
Yeah, they're just keeping it simple. They're just having these default spreads. They're able to punish these late round aggression from Corinthians. And as we said, you know, they can throw these fast ones at the Amigos, but eventually when the guns come out, it's going to be tough to start punishing them. And now the CTs are kind of running out of ideas. I'd like to see a little bit more aggression from Desh. It still feels like he's a bit too passive for my liking, and considering his accuracy in this game, it feels like they should be trying to let him heat check in this game a little bit more, but to no avail. Back into that default spread for the Amigos. And as I said previously, just very passive play from the Corinthians to start out these rounds.
Good pace coming in here from Delboni as well, pushing through mid, so already pushed up and towards door. So this is some good real estate already being grabbed. Triple player setup at A for the Corinthians. This is a little bit interesting. They've given up mid entirely. They're having the one player just kind of watching camera. Bit of a tight angle. I think that, I don't even think that's the offer. And there you go. Fasten does make his presence known. So now they're going to be able to wrap through this. Oh, this could be scary. He might be able to go on Temple, but look at this. Look at the positioning now. And they're just getting confused. They're scratching their heads. They have no idea what to expect now. Where are they? They're everywhere. And they're just taking them apart one by one, and they got themselves a free site.
That's so, I mean, this round really dictates the level of experience difference between the two rosters. What a shot there from Fasten. You can just see, as soon as middle is lost, they're worried about a camera split into the A site without knowing that their temple is now exposed. They can wrap into the B bomb site, and these side anchors are just caught between two mines. They have no cavalry that's quick to arrive, and they just get their heads ripped apart. At this point now, Corinthians, I mean, they've lost all momentum, and frankly, I don't even know if they can do this out of this one, because all the tempo is in favor of the Amigos, and it feels like they can do no wrong.
Yeah, definitely looking a little bit more strides coming in here. Corinthians now going to use their second timeout to figure out what they want to do a little bit differently, and this is a really tough call, because you have that, you know, 3,500 bucks. You're in a position where, do you buy to win out, or do you save to, you know, kind of go for the overtime call? Never easy. This is always a difficult conversation to have. And I feel like the way this game's been going, I don't know about you, Paladin, but I kind of feel like the lighter purchase might be the better option for this one. And then just kind of see if they can ride the wave.
Yeah, the unfortunate situation here for the Corinthians is it's pick your poison, right? You either completely invest into this one and you essentially stake your claim in round number 20 for the map, or you save and you have to do quite the run back. But we're talking 4 rounds in regulation in a row. No mistakes allowed, so they're going to adopt for the later gambit, as the pistols will be upgraded and an opportunity for at least the Corinthians to do some damage. Of course, they would love the round as well, but the Amigos are going to continue to train these slower crawling defaults and pick apart this map control one by one.
Oh, that volley!
Oh my goodness!
He just got roasted alive. That was a perfectly placed molly, and now Fasten able to find 2 more. Oh man, insult to injury now. What an amazing amount of utility work. That honestly just opened up so much for the Amigos right there. That molly just flushed him out, and it was a free kill.
I think unfortunately it spread just a little too far, and Desh was not expecting that. Might have been tagged by 1 bullet here or there to slow his movement down. And now a impossible 5v3 for Corinthians to dig themselves out of. Got all the 3 players in the right site, but Fasten will be there for 1 up kill. Delvoni takes down the Dark player. And I don't know if they are aware of cuts, but guaranteed heat up for 1. Give that. Muscles into Shiz, but they'll do the job done. Map point for the Amigos. And the Corinthians have quickly turned into dust as soon as we've switched over halves here, Laz.
Yeah, it's been really difficult. I mean, let's not forget that was a 7-5 first half, and I mean, they've been only able to find that pistol round. So since the pistol, it's just been the Amigos that have been able to take this thing full effect for themselves. So that's what we were talking about the T side. It's, you know, the CT side is so difficult, but I think the Corinthians are kind of getting a taste of that medicine right now. Everything on the line here, everything spent. Kind of the do or die, and they need 4 rounds to bring it to an OT situation. The only round needed for the Amigos to get themselves done this best of 1. The molly connecting onto Desh again. He can't seem to get away from these mollies, but Cuts is going to be able to start things off with the first opening duel. These T's are trying to get a little bit more aggressive, pushing through D-box. Leggy with a great nade, possibly. Not actually as much as I thought it'd be. Things could be slowed down just a little bit maybe now here, Paladin, and that's a good kill coming back and forth.
Just fireworks all across Anubis, and as the dust temporarily settles, Corinthians still have themselves a man advantage. 4v3 for them, and a couple of players, 3 players in fact, on this B bomb site. Dash is here. It's a tough angle for ZQK to swing into, and that's what it's going to be. Through the body of his teammate, and Desh gets himself yet another. Quick double for him, make it a triple, and the comeback will have to continue here for the Corinthians, getting themselves the 9th on the board, stalling out Amigos just temporarily. There's a lot of money to get through, but it's a good start.
Yeah, definitely a good start and something they needed, but still plenty of cash flowing through here for the Amigos. So, I mean, we're talking Fasten sitting at, you know, 10-6. Like, oh my gosh, that's just so gross, but plenty of funds to come through. So they got a couple more chances to see what they want to do, but Corinthians, they just need that boost of confidence. That's what they need right now. Build up some rounds. And that could be a very dangerous recipe right now for the Amigos. Slowing things back down once again. Molly's going to be flushing out his dash again. Oh, that timing! But he still is able to get this kill, but Molly's a bit too shallow. But Delboni's going to get the job done. He's just going to bombard him now. Getting a full face of lead here. Bringing it back to the 4-on-4. Now the T's, they're going to retreat this. They're going to go in the canals for a quick swim, and they're making their way towards this B site. But now the CTs, they got an inkling on this.
Yeah, Clutch to address down mid, gets a lot of information, but he gets caught on the side of the window. Furia is there to punish, and now it's back into the bomb site. It's a complete gamble from the Corinthians, and they've been netting themselves a couple of kills, trades back and forth, but it's only ABR left up in the clutch. 1v2 needed to keep the Corinthians alive here on Anubis. Pinned to the wall and noted now, naded down to shreds, and there's Furia to close things out. 22 kills across map number 1, and they will net themselves that first BO1 victory.
Oh boy, yeah, the Amigos are going to get it done, and like you said, I mean, a lot of the players came up to play, and Furia, you know, one of the players we talked about, you know, is one of the high fraggers with the overall stats. He came to play today. I mean, he had himself a field day. I think he finished things off around 22 frags, so he definitely was able to find himself some good impact, but really good work that we got to see from a lot of the team as well. I think especially for me, like Delboni was a really interesting player because he found a lot of opening duels right away. He seemed to, you know, be able to pick up some good duels in the effect for these guys when they were in unfavorable situations. So that was also impact for me.
Yeah, and you had a lot of impact from ZQK and a couple rounds here and there. Just enough to get the ball back rolling in the favor of the Amigos, and then allowing for the youngsters to kind of take the mantle from him, with the likes of Furia, Fastin having a couple rounds on the T side as well. And I got to commiserations to the Corinthians for at least showing that they had what it takes to hang around the bigger boys in South America. They'll still have another shot in the next best of 1, and if they can go even with the Amigos, I think they'll be very happy with that. But for now, I'm glad to see that at least players like Desh showing that they have the capacity to compete within South America like this.
No, definitely. And I mean, that's the thing. So we were talking about there is 2 best of 1. So this was the first one. Now these teams are going to be playing each other again on another best of 1. So Anubis is now going to be removed, and then we're going to take that bit of a break for these teams to get ready to go for the second map. But we are going to take that bit of a break. We're going to cool things off, and we're going to get ready for the second BO1. We'll see you in just a little bit. Hey, welcome back. We're here. We're ready to go. ESL. We're here for your season 47, South America. Laz and Paladin, and we're going on the second best of one, where we get to see both these teams go at it one more time in a very different fashion. But there's something I do want to talk about, Paladin, because we did kind of skip something a little bit quickly on our last one, and we didn't get to have a moment to talk about that MVP who was popping off in the first best of one, and there it is on the bottom of the screen. What are your thoughts?
Pyria is the player that I pointed out to be the potential MVP prior to the game's start, and he actually showed it in spades today. 99.5 ADR, 22 and 14 across the KD, and I really do like how Delboni and SHZ and these more veteran players are setting up Pyria for success. They're willing to throw their bodies in for the attack, knowing that the trades were coming in, and then on that T side, cracking open sides of the map, getting valuable information for them to basically call through the rounds. And I was really just impressed by what a young kid like him has on his shoulders, both in the brain department and in the aim department. And it really felt like it was just showing so much benefit for the Amigos on the server. But yeah, we still have another best one to get through and another MVP to crown. So I'm excited to see where we can actually end up, and it'll be Nuke. It'll be Nuke to decide. So as you guys know, we did play on Anubis, and that cannot be the next best of one. And for that should be the first ban within the cycle, and that's how we end up on a new map in Nuke.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that we do want to kind of mention on this is I think, when we talked about the matchup in the original pre-show, we said that, the Amigos are sitting in a way better experience, column. Like they've all played together. They played with, some prestigious organizations, things like that. But this is going to be tough. I mean, I think for Corinthians, like right now, I mean, they're 1-6 on Nuke. It's not like most recent win. They actually most recently had a loss of a 13-1 to W7M, and again even to them by a 13-8 loss. So these guys are kind of in the sea of red right now. They haven't seen a victory in quite some time on a map like this, where when we flip things over to the other side, a little bit different. It's a 2-2, but at least it's a little bit more of a better record on paper.
Yeah, it's a bit deceptive with the four maps played for the Amigos. When they were on Hummer, when they were on Flamengo, when they were on Corinthians previously, this core has played Nuke ad nauseum. It was actually the map that they would play the most often through their qualifiers. Every time they could actually pick into it in a best of three, they would. So while the actual maps played for this iteration of the Amigos hasn't actually played as many, I think the core has been pretty adapted to this map, and for me that rings alarm bells all over the shop for the Corinthians. Not only are they struggling on it across the 7 maps in terms of their win percentage, they're going into very respectable territory for the Amigos, and that's extreme cause for concern. So I think that honestly Pyria is going to make this team look even more dangerous, considering they had, I believe, Denoco on this roster previously, and I didn't feel like he had as much impact as, say, Pyria is right now. So I'm excited to just see him fit like a glove, in all honesty, on this Amigo side, and potentially make their Nuke look even stronger. So sure, it's a bit of a coin flip in terms of the map percentage, but I still feel like they're pretty favored here.
Yeah, and I mean, I just wanted to bring this attention too, because I think this format still is a little bit new for people to understand this as well. So it isn't, the best of threes. We talked about that. These are 2 separate best of ones, and the way it does work is that when the final map is going to be determined, it actually is a knife for side. So that's kind of the most fair way that the side can be chosen. So we don't know who's going to start on which side yet. So I think that's also going to be a really big indication. But like we said, I think the statistics and all the information is definitely showing the Amigos on paper have a very strong Nuke in comparison, but we always have to put that asterisk in there too, like you mentioned, because there was different teams, different rosters. It's not the full thing, so it's not the full effect. But from what we got to see on our earlier game of Anubis, I think we got to see that they had a little bit of a tumbling. They had a good lead, they lost it, they got that second wind, and then they were able to bring things back into pretty much in control for them for the time being. But Corinthians definitely made it very competitive, considering, because I thought, again, on paper they didn't have a chance on that one.
Yeah, and I have to give credit to players like Desh, who's really surprised me on that AWP. He had a great T side and then really struggled with the defense. And, for young oppers, at least internationally, there's this huge struggle for them to perform on the offense to try to create openings, and it has been very difficult for a long time because the meta has completely changed. It used to be your operas would find you raw openings, but now you kind of want them in the post plan instead. And still, Desh was able to do a bit of both. He was able to get into the after plans. He was able to open things up. And then you think, okay, you move to the defense. This is where the AWP rules the roost across all levels of competition, and they can really take over. But for some reason, he was a little too tentative for my liking, was very lax in trying to go for those opening picks and really try to assert his dominance. And that's where ZQK just continued to run over him in terms of the calling. And Corinthians couldn't really catch a break now that Dash wasn't opening things up for him. So I'd like to see a little bit more proactivity from him across Nuke. There's so many opportunities for him to do so. We can take a swing down ramp. He can go outside if he wants to. If he wants to go aggressive in secret, he has that option. So there's a lot of opportunity here for Dash, and I want to see him take those opportunities and run with them, really.
No, definitely. And I think that's a really good point, because I think Desh was that, in my opinion, I feel like the op on op, I feel like he was kind of better, but I kind of wish, like you said, he was being utilized a little bit, more properly, and he was going for bigger fights and doing a lot more things to see what he could find with the big green. But it just was a little bit lackluster. I think when Corinthians really needed him to do it, he just wasn't fully there, but he did have some glimpses of good moments there as well. But we are just going to take another little small break here. We're just getting things a little bit organized here. The servers are still kind of not liking us. So make sure you grab a snack, grab some chocolate. It is Valentine's Day. Send a message to your loved ones or whatever you want to do. And we'll be back here for Nuke in just a few minutes. righty, we're ready to go. First round in this best of one. The Amigos taking on the Corinthians again. We'll see who can be able to find this. And now it's going to be the big battle on Nuke. And this is going to be the toughest test right now for the Corinthians, Paladin.
Yeah, a great opportunity to at least build some momentum, though. Get that defensive start. But it'll be the Amigos on the offense, trying to break through. 5 players going outside through this waterfall smoke. Leggy is there to at least try to spam down range, but will not connect any bullets, which means Cuts is up to bat in the locker room. Kind of being boxed in slowly as heavy rotations come down in that lower site, and they want to try and get Cuts out of this area. Area is going to be here to at least fight, but there's Desh to actually chime in alongside him. Shiz has got himself up into heaven and himself a kill as well. I don't know how he's living for this long, but he's managed to stick around for at least as long as possible while retaining that position. But the bomb is downstairs, and Amigos have a lot of space and a lot of options here to go through.
Yeah, this is a really awkward round. It really is. And now Desh able to find these dualies to work. But look at that. Just within a minute of or within a second. There's so many duels, and it's a drive-by with a block. Maybe a little bit more. My goodness, it's down to the 1v1. Dualies now going at each other. Who's going to be able to win this Cowboy Western fight? And there it is. It's going to be a Leo Monster to start things off. And, oh, man, a scrappy pistol round indeed.
There's not enough ideas flowing there from the Amigos. They were given so much room and so much space. They were getting kills as well, but they were caught between 2 mines. They had heaven control. They could have wrapped back to the A site, but they also got secret control, and so they were kind of thinking, oh, maybe we can just go down into the lower site. And unfortunately, they couldn't find their way into that lower site, considering that there were a couple rotations. And with that, they're gonna have to go on a full save here with just 1 deagle on the back of Delboni, who's done some good work, mind you. But it's gonna have to really climb up the mountain here with that upgraded pistol.
Yeah, that was wild. That was just crazy. But, I mean, not a lot of investment, obviously. No investment, actually. What am I talking about? Glocks. A deagle. Well, there is an investment. Wow. Paladin, I'm having a hard time. Okay, so there is a small investment. Let's see what they do with the investment. But now Cuts should be able to find this crossing. And, yeah, him and Desh are able to get these 2 together. Nicely done. This bomb's having a little bit of problems across, but Delboni, who other than him, to get a nice deagle shot. He's proven to be pretty lethal with it. Now it's a question if he can find another. He will not, and then MP9 is just going to scrap in some coin, and there we go. Corinthians is starting things off nicely with a nice 2-0.
Nice little triple there for Cuts to get on the MP9 as well. You know, you would love to have that economic boost earlier on rather than later. Just give them a chance to play this round number 3 with a bonus, then move into that next round if they need it to have a full investment going in. And kills like that to come in for Cuts is huge. So honestly, just net positive there in the eco for the Corinthians. And now it's going to be really up to ZQK to call a couple good rounds in a row in these gun rounds. Otherwise, as I said before, that momentum is going to spill over, and the mountain will get quickly taller and taller for them to overcome.
No, definitely. And I mean, that's the thing too, is I mean, the first rounds are going through for the Corinthians, which is great, but this is an improvement than what we saw before in their CT side, which was on the other best of one on Anubis, where they were barely able to get anything moving on the CT side. Very different map, obviously, but it's good to see that they've kind of taken that time to, you know, look a little bit more confident in the fights. It came down to a scrappy 1v1. But, I mean, the fact that they took a pretty convincing second round is a good thing, too. Just that money is flowing. The economy doesn't have to take too much of a hit. But I am going to be curious what we're going to see from the Amigos in terms of their first gun round strat on the T side. And, I mean, we know a lot of teams like to abuse the outside and get that control. And I haven't really seen a lot from Corinthians yet, just to see what they want to do to contest that secret control or anything. But I think that's going to be a really key point right now to see how they can start this game off.
Thing is, they like to call very slow defaults, especially on a map like Nuke. And my problem with that is that does give a lot of time and a lot of space to the Corinthians to have the proper rotations. I'm looking at players like Puria to potentially speed things up and allow for them to get map control as fast as possible, and then really make that decision at the 30-second mark rather than at the 25 or the 15-second mark, where they're trying to make rash decisions and they have to go into uncleared corners, and it has come back to bite them previously. So I am looking to players like him again to really make this team a little bit more flavorful, and I think that he's already showed it on Anubis, where he can change the complexion of these rounds pretty much instantaneously. But you do have to give him the space and you do have to give him the resources. So I'm very curious to see how the game plan has changed now that Puria is in the lineup, especially on a map like Nuke.
Yeah, and I think we talked a little bit about this before for Anubis as well. I mean, we were kind of talking about the ops and what like full effect that can come in. And I think Desh did have those moments of, you know, getting good picks and things like that and winning some duels. But I really do hope we can see a little bit more out of him today for this one and this separate best of one in the Nuke. I mean, not an easy map necessarily to op on. I think the CT side obviously is a very different story than T side. But I mean, I will be curious to see how much we're going to see the big green out here for Nuke. I feel like it's kind of a mixed bag in my opinion. I feel like some teams, they can utilize it on the T side, and sometimes teams are like, you know what? Nah, let's just go straight rifles with full utility and we'll just get control that way.
I mean, we've seen teams like Cloud9 try to make that happen. They've played Nuke a couple of times and they've tried to make the 5 rifles work, and we've seen how it works at the top level of the competition. So it has been a huge problem, and we see that the best Nuke teams do have that flex of a big AWP to give them a lot of control. You even look to players like Sunpius on the Falcons, where they're going through their own issues and still he's able to have such a huge presence outside. And that level of competition and then that kind of idea applies all the way down to the South American region as well, where that strong AWP presence, things outside get very difficult for the team. They can't actually scale it to health control, they can't get control either. And they're gonna have to really go to these tight ends, fucking wounded, and not enough manpower to potentially extend these rounds.
And already Leggy taking some big damage already. Down to 69, so starting things off. A lot of utility being burned already from the CT side. A lot of mollies placed here. Amigos kind of just waiting things out. AKs with the Galils on the board now. Losing a bit of that utility, but they still have plenty of Molotovs. Smoke wall is going to come through, but instead they're going to bombard through the squeaky. But Leggy does find himself one, inflicting some good damage on the SC or SHZ. And now it's a question of if Cuts can be able to find this timing. This could be huge, and there it is with 2. Make it that triple. A nice cleanup, leaving it to a 2v1. The Amigos now down by 1 player. Delboni needs to come alive. He still has a minute left on the clock, but he doesn't have the bomb paladin, but he does have some room to work with. He can take his time if he wants.
55 seconds, as you said, does have all the time in the world, but with no utility, there's the chance for the Corinthians to just set up a nice little crossfire around this bomb and get the job done. How much time Delboni's spending on this clock here? It's going to get really difficult for him to really suss out the angles on the A site, and he's going to have to take some unfavorable duels. Continues to rot away, and eventually Delboni's going to have to make a sound cue. Hasn't done it just yet. 20 seconds now, and actually the MP9 of ABR is on the other side of the A site. They're just waiting for that sound cue to come in and picks up the bomb, and there it is. ABR will swing for me, and Delboni cannot get the job done. A little too much time being taken on his advance, and as I said previously, just too many risks being involved in that 1v2.
Well, and we talked about, you know, the stats for these teams, and there's, you know, the asterisks that we said there's a lot more to consider. It's not just, you know, flat out the full stats that you see on like HLTV and things like that. But I mean, this is historically not the best side for Corinthians, right? I mean, CT side actually is about a 27% win rate. But I mean, the fact that we're actually seeing them look comfortable and actually winning fights and having good positionings with the trades is something we didn't get to see fully on Anubis. So this is a good note for them right now. But it is just going to be Tech 9s for the Amigos. It looks like they're just going to try to run into this hot Leggy now. Does find it that nade. It's just so thick. And yeah, a bit of a speed round. There we go. 4-0. And okay, we've been here before, Paladin, but Let's see. Can it maintain to be that long?
It definitely feels like they have a couple bits and bobs of more replicable rounds. Their upper hit looks good. They're able to hold down out to outside quite well. And Amigos are gonna have to be quick to find a new response. The opportunity now to get back into the game. It's gonna be a tougher comeback than that of what Corinthians did on Anubis, where the money was a little lax. This time around, Corinthians' business is booming. With that, there's a chance for players to start taking a couple risks, right? Desh goes down to 50 HP, but EBR to try and stick around here. But Desh does eventually go down. And now, more risks are going to have to be taken by the Corinthians if they want to pull back this man advantage.
Man, that was so sick, though. I mean, the fact that they threw the smoke that was shallow and then the molly that just went a little bit deeper. So Desh couldn't even do anything at all. And this guy's just been living the flames, man. Like, he just can't seem to escape the fire. So it's just a little bit of a problem for him. But the op's still in the rotation right now. Leo Monster does have this in his hands. But it's a question of being, what can he bring to this? But, oh, that's an interesting one. Cut's actually giving away his position. So sitting on back of the secret stairs, throws the molly. The nade just going to do a bit of damage, but he is going to be joined here with his comrade. They might not expect a double player here. This could change things a little bit here for ABR if they decide to go down this.
But they've pumped the brakes here. They did. They're trying to go outside and get a little bit more control, but look how much time is being rotted off the clock. This is the issue that I've had with Amigos previous T sides. They're trying to just drain a lot of the clock, and it's going to force them into this awkward situation. Luckily, they've gotten picks across the shop, and it's only Leggy standing up in this, and I think they've found out his position. They're going to flash him into the angle. Sure, Leggy gets one, but it should be all she wrote. He'll get banged through the hut walls, and the Amigos will get themselves their first round, but a very dicey situation there in that mid to late round.
Yeah, that was really good. I think the utility was the big difference maker for that round 5, right? I mean, like we said, like Desh was trying to put that op to work, but he was already down to what, like 50 something HP. He didn't see a single person, and that was the thing. They were able to just find these duels one by one, which kind of, you know, backfired on the Corinthians. But again, the money's there. They spent everything they have, so all the dollars are spent. You can see $6,300 was spent for Desh with that AWP plus the armor. Now they're just going to bombard into Squeaky. Furia does get the first starter, but it's a good, quick trade back again. But the Amigos now trying to turn things up a little bit more. The spice is starting to come through. Now they kind of hold off again. They kind of toy with an idea and they backpedal on it.
Already that dynamic style there from Furia, opening things up, making it a doable 4v4. Will always favor the T's in these kind of situations. And now as the dust settles, there will be no outside presence for the Corinthians. And with that, ABR is going to have to kind of shoulder peek here and essentially give away secret control. So Amigos have got that, and they can potentially extend the map control into the ramp side as well. We're looking at more of a ramp lean here, a B-sided lean for the T side. And it's up to the Corinthians to start taking back this map control. Instead, they're actually going to opt away from it. They'll just leave a late lurk downstairs. And again, a lot of options for Amigos, and I think they're going to opt in for that upper side instead.
Yeah, they only have 35 seconds remaining too, so I mean, they got to get moving. And the utility's starting to be depleted here. They only have a flash remaining. Good one coming in from fast, but Balboni's getting these trades, and now Leo Monster just sitting in the back of the silos, being a problem, a thorn in the side now, so leaving it just down to ZQK by himself with an AWP. With this little time, this is not an easy thing to do. He could go down the vent to get this bomb down if he wanted to, but looks like he's going to try to contest for this, waiting for the smoke to dissipate. Not an easy one, and now he gets spotted. He does get that quick scope. Oh, I don't know what we're seeing here. Running out of bullet ammo.
Oh, he might have the plant.
And he might... Oh, he just got it. I can't believe it. He was just on the last second able to find it, so now he reloads the op, missing the first. He's only got one more bullet left in the chamber. Yes, now putting pressure on him, and he misses it again. And somehow Corinthians, they're going to be able to bring up another round through a scrappy brawl.
Oh my goodness, just such a painful round there from the Amigos. You have a player down on the lower site. You have a chance to potentially go into ramp where there's only one player to greet them. That to me feels like a clear-cut idea to just split into the lower bomb site. but instead they decide to overcomplicate things and try to send SHZ up the vents. He goes basically to his death at that point, and then they just streamline in one by one into Leo's crosshair. Sure, ZQK pulled that round to a potentially close 1v1, but it shouldn't have really ever been that close, and Desh secures the round where I honestly think that the Corinthians were going to be favored largely. I think Amigos are taking way too much time, and they're just overcomplicating every round so far in this offense.
Yeah, and that's funny because we talked about that before on the first BO1 too, is, you know, teams are kind of overcomplicating things, and then once everything got kind of more simplified, it looked a lot different, right? It looked a lot better. So I do agree. I think Amigos are kind of not looking the same form. They seem like they're kind of overthinking, over-analyzing every single round, and they've come close in these, like, you know, 2v2s or 1v2 situations, but we'll see what they can do a little bit differently. Still plenty of time left in the first half. We're only in round 7. It's a 5-1. MP9 here going to be for Leggy. Cut's going to be able to have that molly deep into Squeaky, but instead the Amigos actually, Paladin, they're going to go right towards red. Some good utility pushing back a little bit. Smoke's going to be put back through, so they don't have to worry about it getting popped. Oh, are they going to get this timing? Oh man, that nade was just way too premature.
Great patience there from the Amigos to allow for no bullets to really come down, and a rotation down, but triple setup down in this lower site now. There's an opportunity to just potentially eradicate this lower presence from the Amigos. And it's just a matter of timing. Are they going to try to actually extend in? Flash, Molly as well. And SHC is caught between a rock and a hard place. It's just a matter of swinging. There it is. Leggy gets his. And into the 5v4. So a lot of time and space being given to the Corinthians as 50 seconds are only left on the clock. And Amigos have got to start to make moves. And again, they're just so spread out.
Yeah, there's still quite a bit of time, but again, this is where they have to make that decision, like you said. And now Delboni's going to be able to drop from mini. He actually does cross, so ABR doesn't get any information. Now they're going to group up towards secrets, so they're all together, the last 4 of them, so they're going to be grouped up with the bomb. This will be a test here for Leggy. He's in a pretty interesting position because he can get this frag, he can retreat this. Oh, and he actually doesn't even win the fight. He does a ton of damage, but it's just not going to be enough. So now these T's are going to be able to get into this lower site. Desh in the flames again. I feel like I've said that 1,000 times, but it's still going to happen. He's down to 40 and leaving it to a 4-on-4 situation. Cuts right now coming through the side door. He might be able to get this timing, waiting for his teammates to throw some utility. Could be a thing. And he can pop this out if he wants to. Delboni able to find another one. Does the element of surprise, able to find the double, leaving it just down to a 2v2. Things are getting a little bit worse for Ware, and finally looking like this could be just so scrappy again, but the Amigos somehow in some way, they find a second.
And even in that situation, it felt like the Corinthians had the right answer, but finally the individuals bailed them out of a sticky scenario. I still feel just very uncomfortable with how long they're taking down the lower site and leaving players outside high and dry. It's something that can be punished upon, but it doesn't matter what happens at this point because the Corinthians are in a forced buy situation. In that double eco territory, pistols across the board, and the Amigos have a chance to rectify the mistakes they've done in this half and potentially confirm basically 2 in a row if they can navigate this. Dash is up close and personal with this 5-7. And it's just a matter of whether or not the Eagles want to clear this. Great movement there from Fasten. And Leo Monster cannot be there to trade. Things are looking good here for the Amigos to potentially get themselves a third.
Let's cut. Oh, that is scary. Oh, that is so scary. I don't know how he got out of that. Okay. A little awkward. It works, though. 21 bullets still in the chamber. Gets a lot of information, though. He can hear all these T's running back outside. So this is good information. Corinthians could go back for the ramp stack. Instead, they're going to keep on pressing. This is terrifying. What is going on? He's about to get a free kill. I can't believe this. And a free AK picked up here. Fury able to find these double, but finally gets down. This is still a 3-on-2, and this is an advantage for the Amigos still, but it's not looking great. Double AKs picked up here. There is armor here for the Corinthians too, so we don't have to worry about the aim punch.
Yeah, but the problem is the bomb has been planted in the lower side, and they fully invested in this, and they've gotten at least a little bit of a silver lining to save these AK-47s to Kevlar as well. And they can do so. So they'll back up, they'll rescind Amigos their third, and Corinthians will at least have a little bit of opportunity between Cuts and Leo to push them into some more aggressive spots moving into round number 9. But until then, the Amigos will be very happy to pick themselves up their third, navigate the force buy, keep 3 players up as well. And perhaps they can just make a half out of this still.
Terrorists win.
Oh boy. Well, we talked about, you know, bringing things back, having a big lead, and now it's starting to get close a little bit more here, Paladin. And that's the thing. The Amigos are slowly doing a good job here to make that gap smaller and smaller, but I don't know what we're going to expect here. Double AK is being saved, which obviously you mentioned is great, but what do you want to work around with these? They do have the 5.7s. Not going to even commit to the armor either, which I think is probably a good call, just keeping that money around that 2,000 mark for a good buy. But man, this is a lot of pressure for Leo and also for Cuts. They have to be able to utilize their teammates to go for big frags.
And they could operate as they did with Pyria on Anubis, where they would swing these pistols in for just dying and giving space to those rifles to trade and play that trade game accordingly. But they're actually going to just prime Leo into the back of Big Red instantaneously. But this type of a position has a bit of a timer on it. ZQK has got the sight lines. Leo's going to continue to push the issue, and there's the spot. The shoulder beak is sublime from ZQK. Quite privy to plays like that. Fastin is going to try to get a little cheeky. Sorry, Leggy rather is going to try to get a bit cheeky around the smoke, but again, Fastin is there for the trade, and that leaves this singular AK-47 in the top sight. And Cuts can't really get involved at this point. Amigos have the world at their oyster, and I think they're pretty much teed up here for their fourth.
Yeah, I think so too. And I do like the idea that Leo was trying to put that AK to work, again, trying to be the difference maker to make, you know, a big impact play. But I would love to have seen a teammate with him to maybe try to go for that trade opportunity. But I mean, this just put Cuts as the only player here with the AK, like you said. Still 45 seconds remaining. So now they're going to switch things up here. The Amigos, they're actually going to go all the way around. They're going to go back outside. So they're sitting in yard, and they're going to group up together. And surely not they're going to run into this connector. Surely not, right? No, Fastin's going to go lower. He should be able to get this intel. But man, this could be an opportunity. Cuts is in a top position, though. This is not easy, but he's able to get that one, but it's only one. Oh, no. That's the next rifle removed. Not an easy thing to see here, and I think, yeah, like you said, the Amigos, they're lining up pretty nicely for a fourth.
Absolutely. There it is. Locked and loaded. ABR has that lone 5.7. Trying to get himself an exit here, but the Amigos have completely shifted the dynamic of this game. Sure, they've had some issues regarding the time, but they've still found a way to route themselves a couple of rounds, snap that CT economy. And now the Corinthians will finally have a buyout. It feels like it's been ages. An AUG purchased up for ABR, and unfortunately there won't be an AWP for Dash, who has been far more silent in this game than on Anubis. 26 ADR with that 6 kills. Doesn't really fill me with the most confidence, but they're really going to need him in the tail end here if they want to have a strong half of it.
Yeah, we were talking a lot about Desh, you know, being that player that we were really hoping to see that, you know, could come alive and be able to bring things up. And I feel like him and Leo, you know, they both, in terms of their overall ratings, are sitting at that 0.91. I know ABR is, I think, arguably the highest rated player on this team with a 0.97, but I do think that, you know, Leo and Desh have been those guys that have been able to do decently well in terms of how these games have been going here today so far, but we'll have to see what's going to happen now. And talking about ABR, it does have an AUG out, so that's the first time we've seen that. Always exciting to see what you can find here on the CT side with an AUG.
Open for the ramp, and ABR's AUG will be tested. Leggy is there to potentially, sorry, Death Rider is there for potentially helping out, but there's ABR's AUG, nearly gets himself a 2-piece. Delboni down to just a singular point of help, but at the end of the day, lads, they've gotten themselves a lower bomb site. They've gotten themselves a man-even situation, and the Corinthians are, again, backs against the wall to potentially retake into this lower site.
Yeah, good work coming in here from them to get this control. Oh my goodness. BQK missing 2 shots again. That op not able to find any sort of a connection. Delboni 1 HP, holding this, the shadow peeking. He's able to get that, expecting another player to come through. Now, it's just bodies hitting the floor. A 1-on-2 situation. Leggy all by himself needs to come alive, but it's going to be Delboni to get the nail to the coffin. We're back to a 5-5, and we have now seen almost a deja vu with a lead that has just been crumpled up.
It's so unfortunate because EQK provides the opening with those missed shots for the Corinthians. And unfortunately, Delboni on that 1 health. Consider if ABR had gotten the double with the AUG, how different the shape of that round would be. And instead, the Amigos have run away with this. They have gotten back into the game. They have snuffed out yet another lead. And now we're running rampant into this A site.
Yeah, they're not even messing around. They're just going to go right into this. Kick down the door, take the site over. It is a 2v2, making it back to the 1. This is, what is going on? These rounds are just insane. And all of a sudden, with 1:28, this is a speed round run. It's down to a 1-on-1 situation. Both players almost identical HP, 46 to 50. Minimal differences, and now rifle going to be picked up here for Leggy. Doesn't want to risk it here. Man, oh man, this is just terrifying. Leggy does have so much utility to work with, though, but look at this positioning from SHZ. He gets the upper balcony. This is huge. Now he's got the high ground, but a player right below him, and Leggy's not there, expecting it, and it's a backstab, and there we go. A 6th round has been gained. The Amigos have, worst case scenario, made this a 6-6 half.
Even in clutch situations now, the Amigos are coming out on top, and the Corinthians just cannot find answers even with the pistols. As you said, at least 6 locked in for the Amigos, and frankly, at this point, they should be very happy. I think they heavily rely on their defense on this map, and the fact that they've netted themselves at least 6 rounds is so phenomenal for them. For the Corinthians, it is absolutely mandatory to get the 6th round, or otherwise, again, we're looking at a very similar situation to that of Anubis. That's a great start from Desh, though.
Yeah, that's a really good start. That's what we wanted to see, right? We wanted to see that AWP being able to win an opening duel like that. Start things off. That's exactly what they need here. It's been desperate times, desperate measures, and now even Leggy able to find himself one too. So he takes a big brunt of damage down to 33, but at least it puts them in a 5-on-3 situation. Big advantage for them. We haven't seen an advantage like this in a little while, but this is where the Amigos now, they kind of just pump the brakes. They just wait things out, figure out their options. This is where they get dangerous because they can look for these 1-on-1 picks. And Corinthians, unfortunately, have been kind of known to go for these swings, so we'll have to see if they can be a little bit more disciplined on this one. Oh, Delboni, look at that. He's right in the smoke, just on the left of this. And he does have that molly to flush out Leo. But Leggy's got a good inkling. His spidey senses are tingling. Oh, look at that shot. What is that? It's like he knows he's there. He's just looking right at him. Obviously can't see him, but this is madness. And there we go. Leo, beautifully done with the reposition. Now they're just swinging through. Uh-oh, Paladin. This is looking a little worse for wear. And there it is. That's going to be a 6-6, folks. That's going to be a tie, and we're going to take that break. We'll see you for the second half. All right, we're back, and we are just waiting for the second half to start here for this best of one. And this has been a, you know, Paladin, I don't know the right word, but it's been interesting. I'll say that.
That's a great word to use to describe this game. The word I'd use is probably chaotic.
Yeah,
Doesn't
that's
really
another
feel
one.
like there's been a real narrative to build in this game because it's kind of been all over the place for both of these teams. But where it sits now is 6-6. The Amigos have a chance to build off of this defense. They've got all the T rounds they've needed, and they're just gonna flood their way into this upper side of the Corinthians. And it's still Delboni ripping heads with his dual Berettas in the back of the site. He gets himself 3 kills in the round. ZQK is there for the rotation, and all that hype is just completely snuffed out for the Corinthians. They get that earlier, the last round of the half, and it just gets ripped away from them straight away.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? I mean, Delboni has been somebody that's been so fun to watch just because I feel like when he's got a pistol in his hands, the guy's just a sharpshooter, right? I mean, this is where we saw with the Deagle before, but now we get to see the opening pistol round with the dualies. And the thing that was so cool too is he's actually just going around the silo. Like he was, you know, going left, going right. He was just doing damage to everybody. So it was just like he was just staying alive, just doing a bit of a boogie. And there we go. They start things off. They get that lead back. And Corinthians, they don't get the bomb. So, I mean, they are just going to force up whatever they can. So it's not an easy situation here. They do have the one Galio with the Tech 9s and the P2. Oh, that's a nice nade, though. Leo, he ate that one. Pin hit him right in the tooth.
They're going to try this upper hit again, try to go at Delboni once more, but it's all a ruse. It's all a fake. They want to go into Piria's A1S, and it's going to be quite difficult to actually dislodge him. Finally, Leo gets one. A significant damage to ZQK, 1 HP to his name. But there's the flank from SHZ. Gets the job done with the MP9. And SHZ with another. Leo goes down. It's just Cuts left up in it. Somehow found his way into the A site. And has a lot of work to do here in the clutch. Delboni's A4 has been clean this game. And even on Anubis. So 8 rounds locked and loaded for the Amigos. It's a complete save for the Corinthians. And I feel like we're just getting deja vu all over again here, Laz.
Kind of feels like it, eh? Feels a little bit of a deja vu moment for sure, but yeah, this is where we're going to just see Deagles and, you know, the light pistol purchase, like you said, coming in for the Corinthians right now. So not much to have an investment on, but again, we can't take anybody out in pistol rounds, especially these Brazilians. They can just do anything they want with a pistol anytime. But it's a matter if the Amigos are going to play this, you know, more tactful and going to be a bit better positioning. The Zeus is out, actually, so maybe the ROPS effect will come in. I don't know.
Well, it's been a delight to see him on the Zeus, and I'm all for people also adapting it in all levels of competition. It makes things exciting. Who doesn't like a little bit of a shock?
Yeah, man. And even I saw that Monacy got that sick one earlier today, too. That was just filthy. Okay, yeah, Deagles. So they're already starting to do something. Okay. Talking about Zeus's, and I mean, there's Deagles to work right now. This is dangerous territory. Ooh, fast and beautiful lineup. Look at that. Double whammy. And he gets a third, too? Whew.
Now, Desh in the 1v3. And at this point, you know, if you can take down ZQK, make these casualties heavy, you'd be happy as far as these purchases go. I mean, there are 2 automatic repurchases that have to come through anyways. So any damage would be fantastic here for the Brazilian Opera. 40 seconds left on the clock. Is going to try to recover the bomb. Perchance try to guarantee himself a bomb plant, but there is players on either side, so it's not going to be an easy test. 25 seconds left on the clock as the chances for Desh continue to dwindle. Unfortunately, ZQK is going to be playing in the back of blockers, so he won't even be able to get that kill. So unfortunately, I think Desh has made the wrong decision, and the Amigos should be able to get a flawless round here, at least in this one.
Oh, dear. Yeah, he's just committing this. He doesn't want to mess around, but yeah, there's no time to waste at all. So nicely done. 9-6 is going to be the score line, and that plant would have been nice just in terms of extra cash, obviously, but I mean, they're sitting in a good position right now that they can go for AKs with full utility, so this is going to be a good moment right now. I think this is going to be the contention point, because if Corinthians can find this round, this is a good opportunity for them to potentially bring things back and get that momentum a little bit more neutral than the one-sided here for the Amigos, but we will find out. But man, 16 kills right now from SHZ. Been having a bit of a good one so far. Good attempt coming from him, popping open the squeaky, just looking for a little bit of damage. Nothing really going to come to full effect for here. Pops open the smoke just to double check some stuff. Oh, that's so nice. An ABR takes so much lead.
Great damage there for SH. He's been a menace so far to kickstart this half. And he's going to try to continue to maintain door control. Up between two mines is the vet. And outside control isn't really going well for the Corinthians. And unfortunately, there's a bit of a gap in that smoke. And Leo jumps right over to give ZQK some cover. There's Delboni as well on the top site. Gets another advantage. It's a 5v3 and a heavily tagged up ABR. Corinthians are stuck in their tracks. 50 seconds left on the clock. And, you know, I don't like to call this kind of a round as a save, but with 40 seconds left on the clock and no route in, no utility as well, I honestly think that this is the best call possible, Laz.
It is, yeah, and it's important to note here too, because Desh was the only one that had a smoke, so they couldn't even, like, if they had double smokes, they could have attempted going outside, maybe getting that yard control again with the smoke wall, but that wasn't even a plan. I mean, they had the mollies and flashes, but it's just so tough, especially when ABR is at 4 HP. Not an easy situation at all. So I think this is the right call for them. I think they need to save this and just keep these guns in the rotation for round number 17. I think this is, you know, it's a tough pill to swallow, but you got to do it.
I continue to run out of opportunities, Corinthians, and all that hard work, that 5-0 start that they had has just completely been eradicated at this point. I mean, judging from the scoreline, you might not have even considered that Corinthians had that flying of a start. And yet still, they are quite a ways away from making this comeback a reality. Another tactical timeout being taken by them as they'll make yet another purchase. They will have that as they save those 3 rifles. But as I said previously, this is one of the last few opportunities they have to dislodge the Amigos.
Yeah, I'll be curious what they want to go for in this kind of a situation too. I mean, this is a tough one because I mean, there's Galeos that are going to be complemented here with the AK, so that's definitely not a bad thing at all. Definitely have that utility here for the outside control. I feel like they should be contesting for the secret and trying to get that real estate because that always is problematic here for CTs. You know, it's like that itch, you just can't get rid of it. It's really annoying. So if they can be able to find that amount of map control this early on, that could make things more interesting because the CTs are going to have to start guessing and the rotates could be cut off. But we see that they're doing such a great job just, you know, utilizing the squeaky door, opening it up, getting information, smoking it off. So they're just bombarding that one spot. They're not even allowing anything to happen there.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it has just made a nightmare of a T side here for the Corinthians. They're going to try their hand at it again. They're going to throw the L block smoke this time around. Maybe get engaged, but Fasten is playing in the front of Big Garage. But finally, Leo goes through that smoke, takes a risk, gets a trade back, and a minute left on the clock. This is probably the best situation the Corinthians have been in all half. They have an opportunity to get secret control now. They can park Leo outside to punish some rotations, and with a triple setup in the upper site, it'll only be Pyria to potentially respond. So, great situation for the Corinthians to potentially get themselves their 7th, but they've got a long way to go. They've got to confirm this bottom site, and they will. Dash has made his way through, and Pyria will not be able to get involved prior to this bomb going down.
Yeah, and look at them. All these players are just on the ramp too, and man, these nades! Oh my goodness! It's just terrifying. It's just raining grenades, and this actually might push them back, and they might just concede defeat. They might just say, you know what, this ain't even worth it at all. They do have the kits, and I was thinking they might have tried to go for something, but I think that just caused a lot more issue for them. So yeah, they're going to keep these guns. It's a lot of investment. I mean, this is armor, triple kits, some utility. So this is definitely the right call. But man, I can't believe Corinthians were able to get that kind of a round in that way.
Yeah, unfortunately, it felt like there was too much of a gamble there from the Amigos. They didn't send Pyria into the site itself. They kept them up in ramp. And that really came back to bite them, not having that lower rotation. I mean, they had SHZ down there as well, and he comes back up the vent. So a little bit of conditioning working out, and that it all, again, it comes down to that secret control. They were able to get secret. They were able to get a little bit of outside. And credit to Leo to take the... To have the cojones to go through that L block smoke, stick it right to Bastion, and now there's an opportunity here for Corinthians to potentially start extending things. They might throw this L block smoke yet again, and Delboni, alongside his counterpart in Fasten, are going to have to find an answer, and their answer is putting ZQK out here as well with the AWP.
Yeah, we haven't been able to see him find too many opportunities. There is a player that is Cuts just on top of Mini. ZQK, though, can he be able to find something with this AWP? Oh, Cuts' head is just hiding. Oh my goodness. I don't think he saw him, but he's got an inkling. The nade. Oh, it's thick. Triple C's.
That's max damage. That's max damage.
Oh, that's so nice. Anybody that's an Amigo fan right now, they're going to be loving that. That's just free damage that's inflicted here. Now Fasten has to reposition himself. Oh, I like this. He's really gone for a big reposition. This could be everything. This could change things. They might not expect this, but he whiffs it. Oh no, they both just swing and they win that duel.
Unfortunately, I don't think he was aware of how close these Corinthian members were. And that door swinging out open made so much of a sound cue. But with 40 seconds left on the clock and ABR on this top site, Corinthians are caught between two mines. They want to potentially go onto the upper, but they're making the right decision. They're going back down to this lower site. 30 seconds left on the clock. Spotted out, and now it's DQK's time to shine. He hits the shot necessary, but they've gone flying up the ladder last. They've gotten that upper site. That last-minute decision that they had to make was the right one. And I was saying, you know, maybe going to the lower site was the move, but I like the pulling of the plug there and just moving immediately back to the upper side as soon as they spotted ZQK's op.
Yeah, really good decision making. And again, that's the big difference, right? Like when you can make those quick decisions like that. You were mentioning it before, and it was kind of looking like they might not do it, but they eventually did. And look at that, they just gained themselves an 8th round. Just a quick decision like that has cost them a good round for their favor, so this is great. And now the Amigos again are going to have to just concede defeat for this round. They do have the op still being reserved, so that's a good note with the AK. But here we go again. This is where, you know, we see those leads. They're so big, and then they start to just fall apart. And the money, I mean, it's going to be fine for purchasing. So, I mean, these rifles or the AK and the op should be complemented back. But what do we see a little bit differently? We haven't really seen a lot of outside aggression from them. So I'm kind of hoping they're going to contest that more differently than what we've seen already.
Yeah, I think they are giving a little bit more respect outside. And unfortunately, ZQK's op cannot get involved. And with that, like, this seems a little bit more proactive, and I do like this. Getting this tight sight line with DQK ahead of these smokes makes things a little bit more doable, but I think his barrel had been spotted, and he gets punished. It's only Delboni now caught between a rock and a hard place outside. At the very least, he'll be able to get some information, but he's got to take down Leo if he wants a round out of this. He can't. Position is noted. Leo doubles up as well. What? Triples up, rather. And now it's just SHG in the back of the site. Corinthians are picking up steam here, lads. They've got themselves their 9th locked and loaded.
Wow, I can't even believe it, too. It's from a hero play of Leo to come up big with a triple. And this is somebody that, you know, we talked about. He's probably, you know, sitting with that .01 rating. He has some of the highest impact, actually, in the entire team. And there's that impact that I was talking about in the pre-show. Him to come alive like that, to put 15 on the board. Whoo-wee. Now the Amigos, they're going to be shaking a little bit in the boots because this thing is a difference of 1 round. And that was a devastating loss. And look at where they're sitting with the money. Pierre is the only one with 4,300. And they have to use their first time out because they know that they're screwed.
Exactly. They've got to get the coach on the mic. And they're now between a rock and a hard place. Because look, the thing is the aggressiveness is there, but you don't have the proper players that are doing it. You're sitting Pyria in ramp, and to me, as an aggressive player like that, I want to get him involved. I want to get him outside. I want to get him into mini or maybe into secret and get him fighting. But instead, you've planted him in ramp, and he can't get as involved because of that. He's really struggled on this defense, and Corinthians can really have their way outside as many times as they want, with players like ZQK and Delboni not being able to rise up to the task. So I don't necessarily know what the switch up is going to be, but maybe, I mean, I don't necessarily love the positioning here from the Amigos. I don't feel like they're using Piera to the best of their advantages here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Would be nice to see some different positionings and just a different idea of what they want to do here, because I think Piera has been a little bit more quiet than normal. Fasten does find that quick trade back, which is great. But look at that. I mean, it's down to 3 players remaining. The Zeus is still a question if that's even going to be able to find anything from SHZ, but not necessarily in the deck of cards yet. M4 going to be thrown this A, or this, oh, I thought it was an AK. It was definitely another M4. So double M4 is being grabbed here for the Amigos. So this is not a bad position to be in, but they don't have armor. So that aim punch is going to be a problem.
Absolutely so. And instead, I think the better call is to just recover this third rifle as well and save. I think that's definitely the better call, and that is what they will do. So an even Steven games here, as the Corinthians have just completely changed the legacy of this game. It's nice to see them fight and scrap with the Amigos, considering how tall of a task it was in and how far down they were to start out this half.
Yeah, and that's what we were wondering a lot, right? Because we were saying in the second half that the Amigos started things off really well, coming in, and then now, I mean, Corinthians have just figured out what they can do to bring these pretty convincing rounds too. I mean, this round, like we say, there's 4 people alive. They've been able to make, you know, the Amigos have to save plenty of time, so they've been competitive, and that's where we were talking about, you know, stats, and we were saying, look, that it doesn't really paint the full picture here, because we don't know what to expect from both these teams into its full force. And we're talking about a tie game now. We're talking 10-10, which looked like the Amigos in the very beginning had this thing, but it's slipping away. That wind is just out of the sails.
And you've got to find that individual play to get themselves activated straight away. Who's it going to be? Because somebody's got to do it. Instead, Corinthians can continue to run away with this half. All this outside control has been just gifted on over to them, alongside opening 5v4s. And this time, Amigos are very willing to sit back, give away a little bit more space. They've planted ZQK in the secret to potentially punish later in the round. And they have players in mini to potentially pounce later as well. Oh, a little bit of a head spotted. And instead, Leo will offer his life up. Delboni's there to punish. And Cut's going to continue to try to push the issue. Fast. Kloss.
Wow.
That's caught outside. And there's Delboni on mini as well. So now, all that hard work being done by Delboni has been ripped away. Man advantage for the Corinthians. And so much map control.
Oh, man. And now making it a 4-on-2. Oh my goodness, these 2 players. What is going on? ABR's just behind the smoke. He's just letting the CT kind of walk right in front of him. So they're just about to touch each other, but he slipped away from this. There's so much control right now from the Corinthians, and this is huge. SHZ does find one on the cuts though, but it's still an advantage right now for the Corinthians, and they're still sitting pretty here with 3. But man, there's a lot of noise being given away. Oh, this Opper's dead. Oh, he's... Oh my...
What?
What on earth? This is some, like, Batman movement, man. I don't even know what to call that. That's insane. And now the bomb's down already again. Oh, this is just problematic. Amigos, I feel like they're going to have to concede again. Unless they can find a duel instantly, but this is some good discipline coming in, Paladin, and I don't think they're going to give up an inch.
Not at all. ZQK, try as he might, will not be offered up anything despite his heroics in the vents. He'll go charging back up from where he came, back into the spawn, and 11 rounds now the good for the Corinthians, and SHG will not be able to save over his A1S. So
terrorists
A
win.
lot on the shoulders of the veteran. He hasn't been able to get activated with this op, and it's really costed them outside. That looming presence that I was trying to harp on in the pregame is coming back to bite them. And with only 3 rounds in regulation left to play, time is running out for the Amigos.
Really is. And this is, you know, we talk about this a lot together, and I mean, this is the thing when you have leads and you lose them, this is where it starts to really get frustrating. So the Amigos, I mean, they had such a big lead at one point, they've lost it now. I've lost track of it. They finally get an opening, but a little bit of a nice pulse. ABR able to find 2 more, why not? Molly comes in the back site, gonna get smoked off here. So SHZ sitting in a good position, but look at this. Corinthians, they just pull back. They're just like, you know what? No, we're not doing this. We're gonna change our plan, and they're just gonna go through the smoke into ramp. Oh, this timing could be absolute everything.
Chance now, as Pyria has just left the ramp, and it has come at just an unopportune time for the Amigos. The EQK has rotated down, and if you ever needed a big round here from the vet, it's got to be now. But it said it's going to be SHG to step up big. He gets himself 1, and he gets himself a confirmed second. A 1v3 for Cuts to maintain this lead. Otherwise, it's right back to even Stevens for the Amigos. 50 seconds separates the two.
Right beside each other. Oh my goodness! And SHZ gets a quad, surviving with 2 HP, and he has just put this round into his own hands. I don't think we've seen a player being able to find a quad kill. I don't think at all in any of the best of ones. So that's huge. Now he's sitting himself at 22, and they needed it. They needed someone to come up big, pull up the bootstraps, and there we go. Back to a tie game. The Amigos finally show us a little bit of a pulse.
And what a time it would be. Only 2 rounds left in regulation, and really all cards on the table at this point. Another fast upper hit that Corinthians tried in the round previous, but couldn't get anything. This time it's EQK finally getting a big opening for his team, taking down his counterpart in Dash. And now the Amigos have a chance to kind of sit on their haunches a little bit, or let this 5v4 breathe. And maybe, just maybe, they have a chance to put this comeback to bed.
Yeah, that 5-on-4. So, I mean, there still is the advantage here for the Amigos. I know the HUD says something different, but not the case. And now Delboni is in a kind of a weird spot because the smoke is kind of the only thing blocking him off here. Oh, ABR. Oh, no. No way he goes by him. Oh, and Delboni, he gets away with a kill too? Are you joking? Oh my goodness. ABR, though, does have a good position. They probably won't expect someone to be there, but he needs to be able to find something now. With this amount of control he's been able to grab. But now...
He's got the bomb.
Yeah, and then this is the thing. Like, they probably are kind of banking on this lower hit.
It's, again, all on the back of ZQK, and he hits the shot necessary. Huge impact from the leader of the Amigos, and now it's mission try to recover that lower bomb site, and they can't. 15 seconds left on the clock. It's only Leo, but he's just so heavily damaged. He's going to recover the AWP from his fallen comrade and try to scamper off in the spawn, but it's little too late. SHD is hot on his trail. Amigos, shockingly, have gotten to map point first. Corinthians will take their final timeout, but Laz, is this comeback simply cosmetic?
Oh man, I have no idea at this point. You know, it looked like Amigos just kind of lost control of this. They weren't able to find really any like big moments for the big kills and things like that. But now we're starting to see people, you know, really picking up things into another notch. Like SHZ is now sitting at 23 frags, and honestly, that quad kill probably, you know, ignited the spark a bit more for these guys, and that could have been it. That could be enough here for them to get things over. This is the series point, so this round, and then things are done for this best of one. Man, oh man, Corinthians have a lot of pressure on this. Full utility. What do they do?
This outside control has been very kind to them. They've tried a couple times now to pop upward, but it hasn't been giving them enough real estate, honestly. So maybe just go back to what's been working, and that's been that outside control. Instead, this time around, they're just going to throw the waterfall smoke onto the top of Mini and not throw the wall of smokes, but there it is. In the meantime, ABR has tried again to go down in the lower. That doesn't net him anything, and Fast gets himself another as well. ZQK plucks cuts out of the sky, and blink and you miss it. It's a 4v2 for Corinthians to hold on in regulation, send us to overtime, or it's Amigos by the skin of their teeth to net themselves the 2-0.
So much pressure riding on this again. The 4-on-2 right now, the advantage for the Migos, and these guys are grouped up together. SHZ now changing up his position. There is full utility from these guys, so now he's just going for the spot. Good information gained, so now they have a full inkling of what's going on here. But what do the Corinthians do with this? They have the one smoke with the molly, plenty of flashes, but they're going to have to make sure they get this duel. They need to get rid of this threat in this lower site if that's what they want to do. Biding some time, 30 seconds remaining now. Need to see where they can go. Lots of nades being used. Yeah, they're definitely banking on this. They have to go for this now. Time is dwindling. And SHC in a strong position, and this could be everything. A dagger to the heart, especially on Valentine's Day, and the Amigos are going to be able to take this with a 13-11, and they make it scrappy, but they'll get it done.
Close but no cigar there last. It was such a sliver of hope there for the Corinthians, and it kept blooming, and you kept thinking, this is the time. This is the time for the Corinthians to show what they have against some of the best in South America, and if they can't get it done, the Amigos get their act together when they needed it the most, when their backs were against the wall. SHG taking matters into his own hands, ZQK getting a couple impactful op kills, and next thing you know, the Amigos have confirmed themselves at 2-0 in this opening debut for them here in ECL. So, I mean, credit to them, but you know, I also gotta give my flowers to Corinthians for showing up in these back-to-back best of ones and showing that they have a little bit of heart in them.
Yeah, definitely, right? I mean, I think that's a good choice of words, especially on a day like Valentine's Day, you know, having full heart. And I think, you know, the offer for ZQK, like, coming up big, and especially in the later portion of that half and like the last couple rounds where he's able to find some pretty big kills and getting instant trades. I mean, I think that was a really, you know, pivotal moment here for these guys, because I mean, we were saying the op was just absent. It wasn't really doing what we thought it could do, but it really did start to, you know, pan out really well. But I think, you know, the obvious was Delboni for me with a couple big frags, but you know, SHZ was really big too. But we do have that MPV that is going to be on the bottom of the screen here, and I'm going to be curious who it is going to be.
Oh yeah,
there it
SHZ.
is.
I mean, 180R on the dot for him. And I mean, he was such a menace on that top site, was able to get so many impactful kills. His rotations were really solid, and he was the real main reason why they were able to claw so many T rounds to begin with. So I got to give some credit to him. It's tough, especially considering how long he's been in the scene, and he's still sticking around, still putting up frags. So credit to him, and credit to the Amigos for pulling together at the last minute, and they get to walk away this Valentine's Day with the healthy helping of a 2-0.
Yeah, I think the fact that they were able to get two best of ones in their favor, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't the prettiest thing. I mean, they had to really fight for it, but that's going to feel really good, especially to get themselves a nice 2-0 for the day. So that's going to be a nice way for them to start the season off and feeling pretty good about themselves. Corinthians definitely look really promising, a team that, you know, is a bit more new in the roster. They definitely showed us some good promise. So I'm actually looking forward to see what else they can do in this season, because I think if they're already going toe-to-toe with a team like this, that's a pretty good sign.
Oh, it absolutely is. I'm very excited to see. I mean, they have so much time. They have a lot of best of ones to play out in this season. I'm very curious to see where Corinthians stacks up against the rest of the South American competition. But from us here on the South American stream, we're going to be done for the day. Luckily for you, there's still a lot more Counter-Strike action to be involved for the rest of tonight. We're going to be switching over to that North American region with teams like Carpe Diem, teams like Fluffy Aimers, and you don't want to miss it. But from here, South American division, we're going to peace out, and we'll see you shortly.